Welcome to our post-Worlds Guile treatment. Joining us are JRay and Alex Marco, and of course our usual host Chris Smith. All of whom are at Worlds, unlike me.
That's enough.
And Chris, why don't you start it off with a recap of how our pre-Worlds predictions went?
Okay, so we had a bunch. We had 10 categories. Everybody got points for got it right. So over unders. So there was a 3-way tie. Rob, Kevin, and Church got 5 points.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys are gonna have to figure out who's the absolute winner or whatever.
Well, I mean, I'm here today, so I win.
He's right. Attendance counts.
There you go. I'll mark it down. Attendance. Here we go. There you go. You win, Rob. There you go. I end up in dead last with 1 point.
Oh my!
And that was just
How did you get 1 point?
I picked a bunch.
Actually, hold on.
Okay.
Which category did you pick correctly?
The Bebop one, 5.5, and the easiest one. But if you think about it, though, I was hedging my bets on 2 of them because I picked your Yamato Man to win, a Gateway deck to win. So, and I was playing that deck, and I was, so there was...
little did you know Timmy Two Belts had other plans.
Yeah,
you put it all on black there.
Little did I know that I forgot the double cats because of a drug-induced coma. So, and that cost me top cuts, and then if I paired up against the Ed and 9 deck, I'm pretty sure I beat the Ed and 9 deck being a 7-hander. So,
you'd think that, but no.
I don't know.
7-handers actually do pretty rough against that character.
My
They
friend,
die too quick.
my N9 deck just beat everybody up in testing at Worlds. It was beautiful.
It sure did. But because of that testing, I lose to N9 in the tournament. So
regardless, that never happened, and then did not get into top cuts. But regardless, so whatever. We just won't talk about that. But Rob will ask me later. So for quick news update, there was MK given out at Worlds. Characters only. They're all over the internet. Everyone was excited. It seemed like everybody's was more excited about them than they were for the Bebop characters. Maybe because of the complexity of the characters. I would say.
I think just because people in general care more about Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, that's also true. That's all.
Bebop.
I think it's a mix of those two things for what it's worth. Just to explain a little bit on the MK characters, I don't love the Bebop characters. I think they're powerful characters with relatively uninteresting mechanics and fancy wrapping paper. Like, Ed 9 is just a character that says, your opponent discards a card, with really fancy wrapping paper.
Yeah.
Like, with the stacker mechanic coming out, things like that. Like, it turns to a form of, like, restriction, but it's just very fancy wrapping paper. Mad Pro's the same way. I have, a really late game scaling ability and a really fancy packaging that's... People don't even use it. Like,
he basically just says, I dig for Punch and Judy and give them speed.
But they're all very powerful characters for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
The MK characters are very powerful again, for better or for worse. But I think that they're actually interesting mechanically. They're not just pretending.
Yeah.
Like, some of them are boring, but, like, Quan Chi is a Pandora's box of interesting design. Goro is very interesting. I think there's a lot to be said about how these characters are actually interesting in a lot of cases rather than pretend interesting. Like, Raiden's very interesting. Katana is going to be... She's very, straightforward, but she introduces a lot of mind games that are actually relevant and fun to play.
Yeah.
So I think that was a little bit of the excitement. I know I got Quan Chi between a round and teams, and I was so distracted for that round because I was like, oh my god, what are all these... I'm just thinking all these characters that I could... I'm trying to play my match, and I'm like, holy crap, that's crazy. I could remove a Napalm Man. So I think that I think some of the hype is validated. Whether... I think that they're a step, at least in the right direction, if you're going to make the characters power and ramp. At least they're actually interesting. And there's a few plain ones. Reptile's very plain.
Mm-hmm.
But you need to have a few plain ones. You have to upset. You have to have a balance. Not everybody can be Quan Chi or Goro, which are, deck-building monstrosities that are just going to be very strange.
Fair enough. I agree with that. Some of them are Aaron Black, who's just better Snake Man in a lot of ways.
I think he might be worse Snake Man, but... He's worse Snake Man. That's probably going to have way better support.
Yeah.
And that's relevant.
Yeah.
I mean, I think part of it is, I don't know about everybody else, but, I'm just sick of seeing Cowboy Bebop characters in like every top cuts from, release till now. So seeing, what did they show about? Like 16 characters, I guess? Because we haven't seen like the starter guys.
Yeah, 16.
So basically like seeing like twice as many characters as are in like Bebop now with Twinkle being banned, that like you can sort of say, I bet you these can hang. It sort of opens up like some of the potential of just like play. There are definitely like other characters as well that can top like even in sort of like a Bebop meta. But just sort of expanding the options that you can sort of feel good about playing and, win an event. I think like that's definitely nuts.
It's definitely a positive thing. It's definitely a step in the right direction, I guess.
But if you look at like how much diversity there's been since Bebop came out, like there's 1, 2, 3 or 4 people getting diversified like every event, and like that's a little rough.
It's very telling to see the top 8 be 7 of the 8 available Bebop characters, and the only reason why 8 wasn't there is because it was playing another Bebop character probably. And then the entire team's lineup for both teams in top 2 was Bebop characters, and in the top 4 teams, I think there was 2 non-Bebop characters total.
Yeah.
So it's very clear that they decided they wanted to set a new bar with Bebop. Whether that was, I feel like they could have done it gradually a little bit more. That would have been nice. And I wish they would be a little more accepting that, hey, like there's problems here. It's not just that Bebop is the new standard for what you want things to be, but there's actual problems outside of that. They seem to be willing to acknowledge it with Twinkle, but they don't seem to be willing to acknowledge it with like Spike 1, which like I definitely died to a Fallen Angel double bang flip 2 hunt for spiders and dragons at one point from over half.
Are you serious?
Man, you sure did take 16.
Yeah, from over half health, turn 3, and I was like, well, I was glad I put my cards on this deck and then didn't do anything like on this table because
I sure did get to play.
Yeah, that's a
insane.
Problem. That's not a real play experience for anybody involved, including the person who did it. I'm sure I know that person who did it felt real good about it, but it wasn't a very interactive or fun play experience for anybody involved.
Okay, so moving forward with that, we're going to talk about, I guess, a Worlds kind of like our experience, I guess. Like, what deck you played, where you finished or if you didn't finish or whatever, and then just a couple thoughts about Worlds, like how the event was ran and all that. So, Jeremy, you want to lead that off?
Yeah. Are we just gonna focus on singles? Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. Singles. I think only people care. I think people only care about who wins teams, other than what you play in teams. So it's not really working.
Damn.
No. That wasn't a dig at you. I was just saying in general, people just don't. I think they care more about singles in general. So.
I agree with that. Although for me, I think the real interesting decks end up in teams. Those are the ones I really like to look at. There's a lot of weird stuff in teams.
Yep.
But I played Keith Disbro Chaos again. Obviously, it's a much different deck from Nationals. 15 cards rotated from the Nationals version, with Kyo's Jacket being the most relevant, but Yamabari, Team K-Dash, a lot of things very important rotated. I went 5-2 in Swiss. I was actually 4-0 up until the 5th round, and then Andrew Alexa got me with Death Vega. On round 6, I won against the Bubble Man Dream, and then round 7, Scott Sunderman and me played Death Spike versus Keith Disbro Chaos, which is a matchup I never win. And I actually took a game in what was a clown fiesta of a game, but I did not win that. So I went 5-2. The deck is so much different now. It's a mid-range deck. It's no longer... It doesn't have that aggro edge it used to, and I stepped on very, very strong draws. It plays a much more paced game. Wood Shield is now like the key interaction to the deck, where you're looking to put Wood Shield into your card pool with like Destined Warrior or Sense of Adventure just to randomly hit Wood Shields and Assassination Attempts off the top of your deck. I definitely hit 2 Wood Shields off of Sense of Adventure over the weekend, and it felt great both times. And that's a play you're only making on defense, but you also get free momentum sometimes when you do it. If you hit Assassination Attempts, that's a great consolation prize.
Yeah. Using
Keith's ability to flush Assassination Attempt into a momentum. And Destined Warrior also gets Assassination Attempts for fast momentum on command, whereas the weakness of Destined Warrior as a momentum generation card is you don't get the momentum until the end of turn. not a problem in Keith. So Keith fixes, like, I don't think Chaos is a good symbol at all right now. But Keith does everything that Chaos needs to be viable and be a competitive symbol. People complain about, like, the attack quality in Chaos. The attacks are great. They're just all 5 diff.
Yeah.
And so, like, mortal humans, not Keith Disbro, can't pass them. Like, you're playing Hyper Bomb, you're playing Flying Yamato Spear, you're playing Assassination Attempt, you're playing Wood Shield. Those are all 5 diffs. They're great cards, but that's not an attack string you can really run at people. There's a serious lack of glue cards, like 4 diff attacks that bring the lineups together. There's Yamato Slam, and that's about it with Yamibari gone. That was Yamibari's job in Chaos before. And Chaos didn't really get a good replacement for that yet. So yeah, I still think it's a very good death. Keith fixes the problems. Being able to Destiny Warrior, Wood Shield in, rebuy it with Keith's first form at the start of the next turn, and block with it again, or leave it in your momentum and block with Felicity House. You're just I was constantly playing with 2 Wood Shields on defense in my card pool, and that made it very hard for people to kill me that actually, interacted with me. It turns out I can't Wood Shield an Unblockable Vengeance, unfortunately.
You sure can't.
No, not at all.
So it was a cool deck. I played it because it was fun. I knew I couldn't win the Death matchup. If you notice, both my losses when Swiss were Death Vega, Death Spike. In testing, that matchup went as bad as my results showed. Those weren't flukes. I couldn't beat those decks, and I just hedged to avoid them and play the other stuff. I beat Barrett's. I was Barrett's only loss in Swiss with his Jet deck. I was able to compete in the Jet matchups and the Ed and Iron matchups and the Spike 2 matchups relatively until Timmy eviscerated me. But so Swiss went good. In top 16, I played Timmy 2 Belts, my training partner for Worlds. We had tested a lot against each other, these decks in different forms against different decks. It was a winnable matchup for me, but not favorable is the way I would describe it. I opened game 2 he won the dice roll, game 2. Like, I can describe the whole matchup in about a minute. He hit me down to like 15 on his first real turn. I went to go Assassination Attempt, Wood Shield. I checked a 2, committed my whole staging area, played a Foundation, checked a 2, failed it, and then he killed me. There's only 3 2s left in that Keith deck, and it's 65 cards, so that was fairly impressive. Also, I was holding one of the spears. So
Oh my
God.
it was real impressive.
That is so rough.
Fuck.
Game 2, I went first, played a Surveyor, and flipped a 2 and failed it. And I was like, this is how this is going to go, huh? I recover with a second build. Timmy 2 Belts goes all in on me. I mise him. I'm holding the right block. I live at 2 health. I've got a Yamato Spear and a Momentum in my Momentum to form out with Keith, the Flying Yamato Spear. So I just need to draw an attack to kill him. He's at 22. I draw nothing.
Oh.
So he lives. And I'm at 2, so he turns back around and he plays a Space Solver or Urban Shower or something, and I go, yeah, and shake his hand. It was over in about 10 minutes. I walked over to Andrew's 4-hour grind fest afterwards for that, and I managed to see pretty much the whole thing because I died in about 10 minutes.
So it's probably like, what, 2 turns for Vega?
Yeah. Oh, and that matchup,
Vega versus Dimitri.
that's generous. Vega versus
Oh, I forgot it was first. Oh.
The Girdle
Then
face.
in game 3, he sided into Stone Man.
Yeah. Oh, you did that game 3? I thought you did it in
Yeah.
game 2.
No, in game
Okay.
He did win game 2. I thought.
No, he was Dimitri in game 2 still.
Oh, all right.
Andrew killed him when he was Dimitri.
Oh, what, did he take the first game then?
Yeah, he won the first game.
Oh, okay. So he won the first game, stayed on Dimitri, and then
Stayed on
went,
Dimitri.
let's try something else. I got you.
Andrew beat him. He decided that Stone Man would be a better thing. Switched to Stone Man. I think Stone Man was actually a worse thing, but he drew like a king and played like 4 straight turns of all 4 of his final Cursed Entombments, which knocked Andrew into desperation. And once the desperation was on,
Yeah.
you think
that's not an optional thing, and that R is just giving everything minus
So,
damage.
yeah, the Stone Man just kept grinding every attack down to like 1 to 2 damage
Damn.
for the rest of the matchup. And Andrew certainly made a noble effort. He got him down to 2, 1 damage at a time.
He almost got him there. And if Andrew had known what Graven's Castle Ruins did, Andrew would have won that match.
It would have changed it, to say the least. But in any case,
yeah.
I got to watch that whole thing because I died in 10 minutes to Timmy, the champion 2 belts.
So So your Keith build, as it's different from Nat's, obviously, because you said that, because the key cards rotated out. Do you think, do you think that he is? I know you have your tier list. Do you think after Worlds, do you think he's still in that spot where you had him on your tier list, or do you think if maybe if you play him off of like, is Chaos still his best symbol, or can why don't you explain some of that to some of the good people out there?
I tested extensively with an air build also.
Okay.
I wanted to play Keith here. I felt good about it. The air build was okay, but I found like if they played like asset removal for Swordfish, like his best interaction now is you Swordfish 2, first form, get it back. You have it every single turn.
Yeah.
You can Swordfish 2 every turn for the whole game.
Mm-hmm. As
soon as they like Herald of Germania you or something, that deck sucks. It's a really bad spike 2 at that point.
Yeah.
It has some cool stuff, like Assassination Attempt very specifically says it discards itself from the card pool when you use it for Keith's ability to pay a momentum cost. So you do get discard effects online and things like that. You could play an even more defensive, like Kiki build. I don't think that's viable, but you could. I tested them both. I felt the air version was just a lot worse. I think the chaos version is still the best way to take him. The offense is potent. The backswings are strong. Assassination Attempt's a pretty good card in this current meta still. It's still a very good deck. I'll say this. The biggest problem with the Chaos Keith version is the death matchup's very poor. It can be winnable at times, but it's not good.
What do you think?
Push stuff on Spike 1.
What do you think it's missing then in the death matchup? Is it like a Yamaburai attack that allows you to net cards, or is it like a
glue card would help, but I think the biggest problem is foundation quality across the two symbols. Like I'm playing Sense of Adventure. It doesn't necessarily do anything.
Mm-hmm.
I'm playing Fallen Master. It does very little.
Yeah.
These are cards I like, but they don't do a lot.
Sure.
I don't have like ways to get onto the board and really like impact the game state.
Mm-hmm.
You can play a lot of Chaos has a fair selection of like 2 diff 4 checks with no blocks that do stuff, but they're all very narrow. Like most of them are really narrow in what they do. So like playing them doesn't help you that much. And also Chaos has block problems. You have a lot of cards that don't have blocks that you want to play. So like your foundation quality is very low, and Death just gets a much better board, and they play at obviously a much higher tempo.
Sure.
But also Chaos isn't very good at pushing attacks. They have very little in the way of speed pump and things like that. I was definitely using Destiny Warrior on offense to put wood shields into my card pool to make my stuff harder to block.
Mm-hmm.
That was my speed pump for the weekend.
Yep.
So I think that's the biggest problem. You can't push stuff on Spike 1 at all. And really, you can't push stuff on Vega or any 7-hander who has the defensive options that Death has. Prepared to fight, good foundation quality, and, strong builds, strong tempo on their builds, good spams. Death has access to great spams, great everything. You just can't push on them. Mm-hmm. You can't enforce your will on them like you can other people.
Yeah.
As we're like Jet, sure, Jet will blow you out with a missile launcher every once in a while, but you can tax him. His block mods aren't that good, and Breaker doesn't hurt Keith Breaker doesn't hurt Chaos that badly.
Yeah, Chaos
can play through it better than a lot of symbols. So that's about it. But also, like I think the problem for other Chaos decks that aren't Keith is the attack strings aren't there.
Mm-hmm.
Blanca can do a reasonable impression because his glue card becomes Smite, and Smite in Blanca is fantastic, and it brings this thing together. Red Tail Missiles, I think it is. That card's like a
the one that gets damage, right?
Yes.
Yeah, you pump the top card. That card's like a 6 high for $1 million in Blanca. So I think you can make like a reasonable Chaos Blanca deck that could like top a PTC. But his matchup with the Death decks is not going to be any better.
No.
Like he's still just going to get eviscerated by Spike 1s and Vegas or people sandbagging. I think that matchup's so hard that like a sandbagged CA Death Spike 1 would probably still beat him game 1, even in CA.
Sure.
So that's kind of where I stand on it.
Okay. All right. So moving on with like block mod modification, let's go with Alex Marco, and he can tell us about his Sniper Joe experience. I know the good people are wondering.
Oh man. So yeah, Sniper Joe. It's funny how that deck came about because, as Jeremy said, where he lost 15 cards out of his Nationals deck, I pretty much lost my Nationals deck because when Etten and Mistral and all that stuff rotated, I'm like, I can't play Lilith anymore. So I was originally going to play Twinkle for this event, and then Twinkle got banned. I'm like, well, okay, fun keeps getting canceled. So the biggest thing I was looking for in a deck was ways to fight Spike 1 specifically. Like Jeremy said, really good foundation quality, who can essentially pump a reduced speed for free, who can pump a reduced damage for free. He has an unblockable attack. He has arguably 2 of the best 3 symbols on the game attached to his character. He has 24 life on a 7 hand size, which shouldn't happen anymore. So the big things I was looking for in a character were ways to consistently push damage through that didn't require a ton of effort on my part, as well as a character that could play big damage attacks and big damage cards. So cards, not only like a missile launcher, but cards like Gateway Shuffle. And eventually I found Sniper Joe in part because I was just reading through cards with good chaos and water, and I came across Red Tail Missiles. I'm like, this card's kind of neat. This card doesn't say printed anywhere on it. And then I read Sniper Joe. I'm like, this guy gives Red Tail Missiles +5 damage. This character might be good at something. And he gives inherent speed because all their block mods increase by 2. Sniper Joe is a character that, since he was printed in like 2014, has sat around either being mediocre or just outright bad, in my opinion. And the last 2 sets released in Bebop and Platinum gave that guy all the strength and energy he needed to be a contender. Like, from Platinum, you got Woodman's Leaf Shield and One with Nature, which is essentially another activation of Sniper Joe. And then from Bebop, you got cards like Missile Launcher, cards like Armed Vengeance, cards like Red Tail Missiles, and cards like Gateway Shuffle. And so it just all sort of came together. The deck, like Chris mentioned, is incredibly expensive. Between the ultra rare attacks, the ultra rare actions, the Woodman's Leaf Shields, the Overly Dramatics, which is like a $10 rare. Like, you better have a way to print your own money or have had very good luck in Vegas, because that deck will cost you some money. The cool part about the deck is it's not very vulnerable to bang. If Sniper Joe gets banged on your opponent's turn, it's like, well, cool, now I can block normally because all the plus block modifiers are gone.
Yeah.
If they bang me on my turn, it's like, well, you have 1 less card in your hand now. And cool, now I can't get banged on your turn. You essentially gave up a block in order to block better for the rest of the turn. But then I run Speed Pump and One with Nature. I run Glacial Assault. So he was a character that was more or less immune to the enhanceability on Bang, which is really good. He could counteract the speed reduction of Spike 2, or of Spike 1, by saying, well, all your block modifiers are going up, so he really just evened it out. By committing himself, he can cancel out the fact that Spike 1, is giving Speed Pump. And then all my attacks were at least 5 damage or higher, and all but 3 of them could be Gateway Shuffled. So you have a lot of damage, fast attacks inherently because of who your character is, and a good way to push damage through because I ran 8 attacks with stun on them. In testing, we found the deck goes about 60-40, 50-50 with Spike 2. It beats the tar out of Woodman. Like, Woodman, I went 9-0 in testing against Woodman because Woodman eventually has to go into Deadlock to be scary. Mm-hmm. And when he goes into Deadlock, my attack base kills him by itself. Like, Missile Launcher becomes stun 5. Woodman's Leaf Shield gets +6/+6 if I lead off with it. And Red Tail Missiles gives my next check to play an attack +5. So he can't survive a turn. It does really well against Vicious because it blocks well. It had a 50-50 matchup with Spike 1 until Spike 1 finds his unblockable attack, and then my gimmick doesn't work anymore. Yep. It's Jeremy nodding his head over there in the dark, just like, yeah, that card's stupid. Much like Jeremy, I got a lot of mileage out of Woodman's Leaf Shield. I think a thing that Jeremy didn't mention is the fact that that attack is safe. Like, in a format where you have to worry about cards, especially in Spike 1, like Skull Barrier or, Urban Shower, or sometimes even in a Ghost, this attack is safe. So they don't get to reversal right away. And now their next blocks are going to get even harder because you have the Woodman's Leaf Shield in your card pool. Mm-hmm. And if they do reverse, their reversals are dealing 2 less damage. I also got a ton of mileage out of Graven's Castle Ruins. That was an asset I was really excited to not only see myself playing, but a lot of other people playing, because that card can put Woodman's Leaf Shield in my card pool. That card can put Black Dog's Fangs in my card pool. That card can give damage and speed pump to my next attack as long as I have another copy of it in my card pool. It blows up White House, so I don't have to worry about having to hard check my gateway shuffles.
If I can just say, that card was kind of the surprise of the weekend for me. It was everywhere. Yeah, I played against a lot of Graven Castle decks over the weekend, and it showed up in 2 of the top cut decks.
Yeah.
the Fae,
Yep.
and the Dimitri.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That card was very, very popular. And I get it, because you're just shoving in Wood Shields and Big Cyclones and Black Fangs.
Yeah.
And that's pretty good. The Dimitri deck was shoving in, like, negative Stolens and stuff, too.
Yeah, because
It's
it's going to let you gain life.
Mm-hmm. It was that card was everywhere. I was surprised. That was something I didn't anticipate. I knew it was going to be around a little bit, especially in, like, the Fae decks. But, man, it was very popular.
Yeah, it's like in a format where like the only other terrain people are going to play is White House, and that's really only in one deck. A terrain like Graven's Castle Ruins can see a lot of play. Like if this were a format where like Dr. Wily 2-Dot was all over the place, well then yeah, Graven's is a bit more of a risky gamble because everybody's going to have Skull Fortresses. But the other thing about Graven too is it's one of those rare cards that gets to skirt around Overly Dramatic because you get to pick up a piece of DR without actually triggering the response on Overly Dramatic, which is good. By the way, Overly Dramatic apparently negates everything and then some.
Yep.
You can stop Cats from being able to double its damage because of Overly Dramatic, which is silly, but it makes sense because Overly Dramatic has the word would or could on it, and that means it negates everything.
Shane blew my mind when he said it could negate a Balanced Fighter. That was a Balanced Fighter R, which I did not realize because I thought
it can.
Yeah, because it says could.
Because it could increase speed.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Oh, okay.
I mean, have you never balanced fighted your own attack to get it back to printed?
No, because my players around here are bad.
Okay, well,
yes, the incredibly liberal wording on Overly Dramatic allows it to do that because return usually is immune to effects like that. The phrase return specifically.
Well, I mean, really what it is it's like it's that it doesn't have bonus or penalty.
Yeah, it's
the fact that it says increase or decrease is what I mean. It's the two. It's the fact that it says would, which basically just means like imagine, come up with the most unlikely scenario where this could happen, and you're good. And then it also has increase and decrease, which sort of jumps around like all this other stuff that they've kind of done to make these a little more like in a box about like, okay, that thing is like resets were always sort of like it's an increase or a decrease, but it's not a bonus or penalty.
Yeah.
And so when you start getting away from those terms and opening it back up into like kind of what it was before they sort of took steps, basically they took steps to eliminate cards like this. And then they just said, no, let's make cards like this again.
Hey.
It's funny because over the course of the weekend, I think people read my character about 12 different times. almost once every round, someone was reading what Sniper Joe did, which one was cool because I'm like, okay, cool, no one knows what this character does. But then it was funny because I've been trying for about 5 years to get Dave Wagner to play a deck list of my own design. And he played card for card main deck the exact same Sniper Joe list I did for teams. The only difference between the two decks was the sideboard. Like his even had like the one copy of Badger Club in the main, like card for card the same deck, and he finished better with it than me. But we're gonna move on from that. We're not gonna talk about that. Dave didn't have to play Spike 1 in his first round of teams matches. But I think the coolest thing about the deck is that it plays around a lot of the standard defensive stuff. It's like, oh, that's neat, man. You have speed redux. Well, all right, most speed redux is -2, so now you've canceled out the block modifier thing at the cost of a foundation. So, all right, this is still a 3 or 4 speed high or 3 or 4 speed low, so deal with that. Because I play Overly Dramatic, it's like, well, I can get around gateway shuffles. I can get around other heavy DR and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure that Overly Dramatic also stops Curious Magnetism.
I mean,
because it has the word would. Yeah, it switches speed and damage.
Why not?
Because it will either increase or decrease something by flipping it, unless it have the exact stats. You get all of the really cool defensive tricks that you would get on other symbols. So, like, you get things like if you were playing Earth, like you still get Cool and Focused. You still get Refusing to Let Go. If you were playing Water, like you still get Journey West. Jeremy mentioned the fact that he played Fallen Master, and I played that card as well. And I think that was the case of I played a card that got a lot more value in my deck than it did in his because, one, my attack base is all 5 discs. So I wanted to check 6s. I ran 11 of my 17 spams check to 6.
Oh, okay.
DR is great for Sniper Joe, too, because it readies him. If you whenever you take damage, he gets to ready. So minimizing the damage you take is awesome. It also reduces speed, which is cool as well. It had a +2 block on it, so that meant if I flipped it for red tails, my red tail is now a 10 damage attack. Yeah, it's awesome stuff. It's really funny because I built this deck to compete with mainly meta decks. In the vast majority of singles, I didn't play against meta decks. I played against a Spike 2-Dot, and I played against an Ed 9, and then I just played against a bunch of weird stuff. Like, I lost to Grant Padley. I lost to Faye, which I didn't think Faye was very good. And I actually thought I had a favorable matchup against Faye because only 2 of her 3 abilities work. Or 3 of her 4 abilities, I should say. It turns off the speed redux part. Or the damage pump. I can't remember what she says. But like there are also games where it was just like, okay, I can either kill this guy on turn 2, or I can kill this guy on turn 10 because the deck is really flexible. I played a match, I think in round 5, where I played against Drillman. And in the first game, it took Drillman 42 minutes to beat me. I won games 2 and 3 in 17 minutes before time was called. And I won game 3 by going, I blocked with stop on the previous turn, so Drillman's tapped, so he can't stack attack checks on top of my deck when I'm bashing into him. I played Missile Launcher, Cowboy Battery, Gateway Shuffle, Red Tail Missiles, he's dead.
That'll do it.
I'm like, well, you have 1 card in your hand, and I know it's a Drill Bomb, and you don't have any foundations ready. I'm pretty sure I get to win the game here. And I rolled 3 6s on that turn. I'm like, yay! Yay, 6-check foundations, winning me the game.
Jeremy's just thinking about all his 2s.
Yeah,
Jeremy, I run 2 checks as well, man.
I heard I played against the Mexican Typhoon Vicious in teams, and I didn't know he was a Mexican Typhoon deck till he killed me with it in game 2.
Ouch.
And he made them. They were there. I never saw them until turn 18 of game 2, where all of a sudden I took 20-something damage. That was a moment. That was a moment of realization in this matchup that, one, this man never checked a 1-check, and he could have. And he was playing ballsy. And he just didn't care. And then also that, oh God, I'm dead, when I very much thought I was I was comfortably alive in my eyes.
You were incorrect.
I was no longer comfortably alive. That was a tough time. And that whole time I was like checking missile launchers, and I'm like, come on, like, you're allowed to check bad too. Like, I don't understand. Like, how could you not have checked one of these? Our game 1 took forever. Like, it was ridiculous.
So, like, just to wrap up my experience at Worlds, I mean, I finished with the same overall record in both events. So I was 4-1-1 in teams, and then I lost my top 8 match, so 4-2-1. I went 4-2-1 in singles. I think I finished like 18th or 19th after diversity, so I wasn't getting into top cuts. But the deck performed a lot better than I thought it would, especially in singles, because I thought, oh, in singles I'm just going to play spike 1s like every round and lose. I think the coolest part about playing the deck is that as a 7-hander, in a perfect world, you would like to be spike 1. Like, you would like to have ways to be able to make you block better, make it so your opponent can't block as well, and then have ways to mitigate damage either through DR or timely blocking, as I mentioned before. Sniper Joe checks all those boxes. He pushes damage through, he makes it easier for you to block, and because you're the good symbol and have access to cards like Woodman's Leaf Shield, Gateway Shuffle, and Fallen Master, and refusing to let go, he can take reduced damage and keep on going. So there was a match where I sat at 4 for 6 turns, and I got attacked on about 4 or 5 of those turns, and I just didn't die. And part of that was because of Graven's Castle Ruins, but he's a character that does, I think, everything you would want a character that has a 7-hand size to do. It's just he has arguably weaker symbols because good costs $1,000 to play, and he doesn't have an unblockable attack. He's not spike 1.
Yeah.
So he's got like 5 or 6 less vitality, but
yeah, I mean he's statted like a 7-hander in this day and age should be. Like spike 1 like got out of the DeLorean from Back to the Future in 1955 and realized, look, my stats are perfectly fine here. Like back when I was in high school, spike 1 had acceptable stats.
All right.
So circa 2006,
right?
2007. Yeah, exactly. Like when that character got printed, I had to rub my eyes because I thought I was either dreaming or the edibles I had eaten hadn't worn off yet. And I was like, oh, this is a real character. This character exists.
I certainly recall some people saying that guy wasn't even that good. And I was like, are you sure?
No.
I remember that.
Can you think about this again just for a minute?
Yeah.
And maybe We'll come back to it.
Yeah.
Look, if 820 with one symbol and no abilities is good, 724 with 2 of the 3 best symbols in the format and 2 abilities that essentially do 2 things each is really, really good.
Yeah.
And then you look at Faye sitting there with 1 more vitality and 1 less hand size, and you're like, man, the power creep is real, boys. It's still a man's world out there. This only girl can only get 1 more point of vitality, and she has to lose a hand size for it.
Hashtag she's still waiting. So.
Exactly. Like, where's the equal work for equal pay? Guys? Like, I'm just wondering.
Yeah,
I'm just asking. I'm asking the tough questions. But to close it all out, like, there were 2 things I was really surprised about. One was there was less diversity in singles than I thought there would be going into top cuts. Only 4 people got diversified out of top 16. I thought that number would be twice as high. I thought it'd be somewhere around 8 people.
Yeah. I mean, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. You can finish up.
The other thing, too, was leaving this tournament, I thought I would want Spike 1 banned even more. I think, realistically, I want Vengeance of the Fallen Angel banned and see how he plays out with that card gone. Like, it's sort of like how I felt with Twinkle. I was like, well, we could try banning DD and see how she goes from there. It's more so a case with Spike 1 where it's just like, if you take this guy's 6 damage unblockable attack that he can magically respond to afterwards with Bang and Spiders, not only do I feel my matchup personally against him would have gone better, like, he's a lot less frightening when you're playing against him with a 7-hander. Mm-hmm. Because then it's just like, I don't magically lose a third of my life because this guy played 1 attack and I didn't have Revoke.
Yeah. I will say, alternately to that, like, discussion, obviously starter cards are a lot harder to ban. I think banning Bang is kind of a 2 birds with 1 stone thing. It would help that interaction be a little bit less frustrating.
Right.
And it would also free up some of the people that are hiding under the chains of Bang, like some of the characters that would otherwise be viable.
Yeah. I mean, there's some stuff in MK that you probably want Bang around for.
Oh, I want to bang Quan Chi like it's going out of style.
Yeah.
Literally,
for sure.
He's a handsome man.
I agree. I just think that there's probably better ways you can print that card. I think both abilities on Bang are a problem. And I think realistically, it's going to be hard for them to go after a starter card. It's been historically difficult for them to do anything to starter cards.
Yeah.
Right.
So if we're going to have to keep dealing with Vengeance Spike 1, let's make sure that those Vengeances don't hit for 12 or 15. Can we just please do that? Like, that's all I'm asking for. Or if they're going to hit that hard, make them work really hard to do it. Like, make them drop a bunch of petrol powers or something, and it's way less cool. Like, don't let them casually go, all right, I've got one of the best defensive cards in the game, and also I'm probably just going to kill you once you get to 10, no matter what you do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, I feel like I have a similar problem with Urban Shower, but Urban Shower is not nearly as bad, where it's just like, I feel like Bang should have said if this unblocked attack deals damage. Because the biggest thing I hate is that I can DR something to 0, and then I can still get banged, and if I was at 3, I just die.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, I lived, I did everything I could to not take damage, and then because I didn't block a 0 damage attack, I lose 3 life and I can lose the game.
Yep.
Which I think is bad. The card should, if they're not going to ban the card should say the unblocked attack has to deal damage.
I always laugh at how ineffective dodge can be against Vengeance sometimes. A card that seems like it's directly countering it, and it's like, I mean, I guess I take half of that unblockable, and if they have a bag, I'm still taking most of that unblockable. That's not great.
Yeah, it's and like, oh, cool, I revoked the unblockable. Now it gets to be a 6 mid for 13.
For 1 billion damage.
Yeah, like, whoops. That was
like,
Phil Birch was obsessed with Fallen Angel Grant Padley as a deck. Like, he wanted to play that deck so bad. Do you know how much damage that does in Grant Padley? It's 1 million.
15.
Like, in Phil Birch's words, that's 1 million.
It sounds like something Phil would say. Yeah.
Once he has to take off like a shoe or 2 to start counting up the damage, it's 1 million. We just stop and go.
I actually hit somebody with 1 million damage Urban Shower as Jackie in the MK side event. That was beautiful. Reversal shower for 40. Oh.
Throwing up on myself.
I mean, I probably got hit with 1 million damage Tech Sphere when I was over in the UK.
Yeah, you actually got hit by that, I think. That was the literal 1 million damage Tech Sphere.
It was.
I mean, it was arbitrarily however big you wanted it to be.
Yeah. Pick a number. Any number is fine.
Okay, so
that was my experience.
Well, my world was 2 sides of a different coin, I guess. My team's record was bad. I went 1-4. Let me preface this with the day before I left for Vegas, I magically pulled a muscle in my back, and I couldn't walk. Like, my wife had to help me up to get. And this is a woman who's had her stomach ripped open for a procedure, so she has to help me get to the car. I almost fall down in the doctor's office. So I'm prescribed heavy medication. So I'm on narcotics all weekend.
I feel like we need a Chris Smith excuse counter in the top
Oh,
corner
it
of this
is.
video.
Bing,
and it needs to like ding
bing,
up every time.
bing.
Hashtag dad problems.
We're at 2 now. But anywho, I do not do well with heavy narcotics. But I went 1-4 playing Spike 2. A lot of it had to do with matchups. I just wasn't ready. We paired bad. So, and my deck was okay. It was just a life, but we're not going to talk. We're talking about singles. The next day, singles actually did a lot better. I ended up with a 4-3 record with Yamato. 3rd year in a row at Worlds where I'm a win-and-in situation. And last round, I have an 11 damage cat. His board has 2 foundations up. Haven't seen a +0 block at all whole game. I'm like, well, I can just leave it and kill him, or I guess I can double it, but there's no way he has a +0 block in his hand. I go, whatever, I'll pass. And he goes, really? I'm like, yeah. He goes, +0 low, partial block, take 6. Yeah.
Did he block with, like, here we go or something?
No, he blocked with Slash Claw. Like, I hadn't seen it the whole entire game.
Were you up against Ryan McClain?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
yeah. The bubble
The
dream.
Bubble Man.
Bubble Man
Game 1, I
Slash
killed
Claw.
him in 5 minutes. Game 1, I murdered him. Like, it was no contest. Because he checked bubble leads every time he went to block. So it's just like, cool.
It's a chubby robot that shoots bubbles at you.
Yeah.
Of course you killed him.
Yeah.
I would point out that
Defenseless.
Ryan also had terrible luck against me, so I'm very proud of him living the bubble dream and making it.
And then
whatever, at least.
game 2, we played like a 30-minute game 2 where he just whittled me down and I failed my last block. And then game 3 was the I forget to double cats thing. So I cost
It doesn't sound like you forgot. It sounds like you made an active choice.
I made an
you wanted
active
to go,
choice.
This is
I should have done it. Okay,
He's
fine.
like, I'm going to miss the
You know.
early bird dinner special. I have to
There
end the
you
game
go.
now.
Yeah, I got to end the game now. Early, yeah. But no.
That was like the walk away where he turned his back to the rim, threw the basketball over his head, and just assumed it was going to go in.
Jeremy's
Oops.
right. Jeremy's right. But no, it's 3rd year in a row winning in, and it just didn't come up again. So, but I was happy with my choice though. I did not play against a Bebop character. Oh, I did. I lost to A&K round 1. That was it. Yeah,
That's impressive.
that was it. Yeah, that was the only. Yeah, I died because I dropped and went up, dropped, went up, and then I went 1-2, and then won the next 3, and then
It's funny. I played just enough. Like going into the tournament, I was like, I can make top cuts as long as I only play against 2 death decks.
Yeah.
That's it. Like
Yeah.
I can only afford 2 losses to death decks here.
Yep.
So and I played exactly 2. And I was like, if I play him late enough, I might even be able to get him to intentionally draw, and they won't know how horrible the matchup is for me.
Yeah.
But
I
I got just enough of them.
I had a blast playing Yamato off of water, man. It was great. I feel this format currently is if your deck has deadlock effects, you have a better chance at winning than your opponent because
Play the good symbol.
I was playing water. I had ISSP execution, and I had maybe one other deadlock effect. I can't think of it right now, but I added in unmet demands on this.
Good card.
For
choice.
For Indianapolis, I'm planning on playing the Water Yamato deck with some updates to it. So the unmet demands helps fuel.
You're not going.
Oh, I'm going because me and Phil are going to be in finals. We've already decided this because Indy has no play group, and I don't know if Jeremy's going or not. So if Jeremy goes, then
if Phil's going, you might be in trouble because I might actually go.
Ah,
but
fuck.
I don't know if I'm going to play anything real.
Oh, no,
Y'all are gonna lose to Thomas Gordon playing Sniper Joe. That's all that matters.
You're probably right, but
Do you think Thomas has those cards?
No, but Scott does.
He's
Scott's
gonna
picking
mail
Thomas up.
all those cards to Thomas.
Well,
There's a
allegedly Scott
local-
is going. So.
there's a really good local scene there. So
Scott has considered it,
Yeah.
and it very much depends on whether or not Hopkins wins this weekend.
oh,
if they do,
yeah.
he's gonna stick around to watch more Hopkins, and if they lose, he's gonna be like, absolutely shattered for about 3 days,
Yep.
and then he'll probably go, well, let's see how much it's going to cost me to drive to.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Thomas Gordon better start hooking then from the sounds of it.
There's a strong local over
Yeah.
there. One of my Worlds playtesting was with Dylan.
Oh,
I
really?
think
Okay,
Dylan-
yeah, Dylan. Yeah.
I did a lot of Worlds playtesting with him, and
Oh,
I
good.
think he's good.
Good. That's awesome.
Uh,
He's the only one who doesn't shoot his mouth off because all the rest of them shoot their mouths off so bad.
Dylan's
So,
laying
that sounds
low.
like a great meta.
Yeah, but
To be all trash talk and no back.
Personally, I like the other guys too, and I think
Yeah.
they're good.
Oh,
But
yeah.
they're still a young
Oh, yeah.
play group,
oh, definitely.
and
Yeah,
there's going to be some more lumps taken, I think, before they start to get their day to
Yeah.
shine. As
Mhm.
with all the new play groups,
yeah,
when they first come up, they're kind of punching bags.
yeah,
But like you look at Omaha now, and there's like 90 good players at Omaha.
yeah,
And
Oh, they're
when Omaha,
frightening now.
yeah.
when Omaha first came up, I was like, Danielle's really good, and that was about all I felt.
That's
about them.
about it.
Yeah, yeah.
And now, like, obviously Miles is great.
Mhm.
Most of the UFSU guys are real players. I think Barrett's spectacular.
Yeah,
I think
Barrett's one of my
player.
favorites on that team. That's for sure.
The
Johnson's good.
the Johnsons,
yeah,
the most
Johnson
dangerous.
and Johnson.
and
the most dangerous
and
tag
I
team.
actually had to take back my
UFSU.
the most lamest player thing. James isn't that lame of a player. He's really good. So
I thought it was more about his style than his.
it is. It's
ability.
more about his style
So-
than his ability. But James has always been a really good player.
If
but,
James could lame you out without you doing anything, he's
Yeah.
certainly going to try.
yes, oh, yeah.
That's
Oh,
the
yeah.
James Stevens special.
Yeah,
I was going to say, like, how
He'll
is
play-
Garrett Brett not the lamest player in
Yeah,
UFS?
well,
Like,
Garrett Brett was the biggest troll of the weekend, if that's what you're talking about. Like
he
that
did
dude,
more than do a Nocris.
he was in teams. He was killing people with the enhance on Scorpion stab, and then yeah, no, he
Tom
wasn't
just had
trying.
a brain aneurysm.
His strategy was to just get a bunch of 5 diffs in his card pool and burn you to death with Scorpion stab. He didn't care if anything landed. That's how he was going to kill you. And then in singles, he was milling people with Call of the Dragon Queen. So Garrett Brett went full meme lord
It almost worked.
that weekend, and he was far more successful than any human being should be playing the decks that he played over the weekend.
yeah. But
As
yeah,
his teammate in teams,
yeah.
he had a really good teams record, and every time I looked to the area next to me, he had about 35 cards in his staging area, and he was killing people with shokens that weren't actually hitting because he would then Scorpion stab after them and burn them for 5 and pass. It was a disaster.
Garrett Brett would have 30 foundations in play and 40 cards still in his deck, and I'm like, what is this monstrosity?
yeah, yeah.
It was great. Every time I look to the left, I'm like, I'm so glad I'm not in that match. Like,
Yeah.
that was the best part of having him on my team this year, was not having to play it.
Face it.
Zero chance of
Nice.
having to
Yeah.
play him.
100% best reason for having him on the team this year.
But I do feel that the game is shifting, even though that we have all these crazy attacks and characters, that these deadlock effects are actually becoming relevant now because of it's either you have them so you can push deadlock, if you can force it on your opponent.
I don't know about force. I think it's more that you can punish them.
There you
for
go.
a build.
That's probably more the correct word. But yeah, you can. I punished a Dr. Wily deck because he was being all. Because I played Dr. Wily against Dr. Wily 2. I think round 4, and he hit Skull Fortress and all that extra build crap, and I'm just like, sweet, I got 3 ISSP execution in my discard pile. I'm just gonna pick them up and just. I didn't even need spears to kill them. I just played those out, and it was awesome. But
I have a whole kind of deadlock design rant on this set. I think that the deadlock was not handled that well in this set.
Yep.
Because, like, putting deadlock effects on otherwise already really strong cards, like Missile Launcher and Hammerhead Assault and all these other things.
Overly
and,
Cards with jet on them.
like, yeah, pretty much all the jet
All
support.
the jet
but
support.
Even some of the face stuff, though. I think it made it so, like, it punishes you for drawing poorly. And I really hate that by having so much casual deadlock. Like, there was a jet game where I just bricked attacks, and I didn't really want to go into deadlock, but I couldn't attack. Like, so I had no choice. It was just drift into deadlock and try to fight it off because I drew poorly, not because my deck was designed to do that. Like, I had a similar game with Keith where I drew out 2 point. My Keith deck was specifically designed to stay out of deadlock. He plays just fine at 10 foundations, and a lot of my foundations destroy themselves. But I had a game where I bricked attacks for 2 or 3 straight turns. I have to get cards out of my hand. I have no choice but to go into deadlock because I need to get to attacks. And I felt just like it was punishing me for, and like this was a person playing missile launchers, stuff like that. So like
Yeah.
I felt like I was getting punished for drawing poorly, for breaking attacks, because like it's made 6 hand size aggro problems or like mixed 6 hand size mid range problems even more exaggerated.
Mm-hmm.
Because you kind of have almost no choice where you're stuck drifting to 10 foundations and then you're review stepping or playing one attack. You can't build an attack turn anymore. You can't get this junk out of your hand to try and stabilize. I think it's the deadlock concept is fine, but where it is now is not a positive thing. Like, yes, it's nice to push on the 20. Like, it's nice to have to push on the Garrett Bretts of the world, but you're also punishing the Jeremy Rays of the world who just don't draw friggin' attacks. Like,
and this has been your PSA for Jeremy Ray against Deadlock.
Well, to play off Jeremy's point, I think another big problem too is that the allocation of deadlock abilities isn't evenly weighted. Like,
That's
Good
true.
has every deadlock card you could ever want, whereas you know who I'm never afraid to go into deadlock against? Spike 1.
No.
Most of them are played off Death. Unless they're playing Cleaning the Fish, they don't really have, like, Death does not have a lot of scary deadlock cards. Like, same against
I think
Vicious.
there's a bunch, right? Like,
Life doesn't either. Life doesn't have a whole
Life has
bunch.
Life has a couple. Cleaning the Fish again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like Kickback
Well, like,
Crescendo
Ace
is one of
Maneuvers
them.
is a pretty brutal deadlock card.
Oh,
Yeah, like that's
okay.
a good one.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong. Like, Life,
But
Life
I feel
definitely
like
has
those
some
are
okay ones.
much more limited in who's running them, I guess.
Right.
So I guess there are things. It's just like maybe stuff that I don't.
I certainly went into deadlock against Spike 2 and was real sad about it at one
I
point.
gotcha.
'Cause I couldn't
Like,
do Ace Maneuvers.
I feel like
but-
Death, or not Death, I'm sorry. I feel like Good, Water, Fire, and Earth have a really good abundance of deadlock pieces they get to use.
Mhm.
Like Good, Earth, and Fire especially.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Whereas,
Earth
like,
has
conversely-
some really good stuff.
Conversely, you have
did you
symbols
just
like
list the jet symbols?
Yeah.
Strange,
plus Water.
strange
Yeah, like,
coincidence.
plus water, but then like you conversely you look at symbols like evil or symbols like death or symbols like I don't think air has that many good ones outside of like Ace Maneuver, but again you're playing that in a niche deck.
I don't even
Cleaning the
think
Fish, like
does
niche sort
order
of deck.
does order even have a deadlock effect at all on its symbol anywhere?
No.
I mean, they
Yeah,
have.
So-
They have.
It has-
not deadlock, but deadlock.
Oh, they have Armor Expert.
Oh, armor expert.
That and
Yeah.
like the Call the Storm.
Oh,
Yeah, that's
Well,
right. So they have
I guess
deadlock
that's
effect
death
before
too,
deadlock.
They certainly have the Stone Man deadlock effect if you're.
I guess
That's-
so. Yeah, I
But
guess
he
that's
also
true.
has Earth and Fire.
Also, there's a Zangief card with the deadlock on it. The
Oh, is that the one that just gets you a throw?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, double lariat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
that one's not bad.
Speaking of which, someone used that deadlock effect on me on Wednesday. It did not help them beat me. It was funny.
But that was my biggest thing is like deadlock is great
Mhm.
if you evenly distribute
Yeah.
good deadlock abilities across all the symbols, which they have not done as of yet at all.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
For what it's
3
worth,
symbols are sitting at the top of the mountain with all the deadlock cards they could ever want.
for what it's worth, and I mean those are Jets 3 symbols too. For what it's worth,
Yeah.
but I also think Chaos is probably the real 4th place. It gets all the face stuff and it gets Wood Shield, and
Yeah.
that's
That's right.
like that's all the stuff that Water has, and then Wood Shield. And Wood Shield's probably number 2 behind Missile Launcher in the deadlock effect. I want to have shoved into my face the least.
Mhm.
Overly dramatic is my number
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
attack wise.
2. Okay, that's
When
fair.
it comes to
'Cause that's-
foundations, it's like the only 2 foundations in deadlock that are really mortifying are like Unmet Demands and Overly Dramatic.
Yeah.
Unmet
Yeah.
Demands Deadlock is.
Awesome.
It's brutal, but that card's a little bit harder to play. That's not for every
Yeah,
deck.
yeah, yeah.
As where
And that
Overly
card
Dramatic
helps-
is a 4 of every deck on its symbols plays 4 Overly Dramatics
Yeah.
right now.
And unmet helps them leave deadlock. Overly dramatic helps keep you out of deadlock.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's also true.
Yeah.
I certainly like had people drift into deadlock, and since I'm Keith and I can tutor very easily, I just went, here's 2 or 3 Wood Shields. I want you to tell me how you feel about it.
Yeah, it's like you're dead because
Yeah.
+5, +5, +4, +4, +3, +3. You're never blocking again.
Yep. No,
Okay.
I first formed the first one. Don't downplay this. It was +6/+6 on the first one.
All right, so with that, we'll just leave Worlds singles and teams and matches, but we want to talk about MK. I know that we got the new characters.
Well, I was
go
gonna
ahead.
say one thing.
Go ahead, Rob. Since
'cause
you
I
know,
know-
I guess.
I was fairly surprised too, like Marco said about the lack of diversity, and I know like because I not being there, like they, I was watching like some of the standings they posted, and they didn't have a lot of stuff early, but then like they started showing like round 4, round 5, and like as with a lot of the tournaments, there were a lot of the spikes sort of congregating to the top of like X and 1, X and 2, just kind of like hanging out. And I think what happened was in the last round, Corey and Scott were both X and 1. And then I think like all the other guys were basically at like, I think most of them at that point had like a draw, or like, they were like X1-1 or like had 2 losses or something.
Dave was drawn with Miles. Dave went back. He was right behind.
Yeah, he was X1-1. That's why.
Because Corey and Tam, because Tam was basically in, so I think he just drew, or he just conceded because he was like, whatever, I don't care.
Yeah.
And so that immediately made everyone other than Scott out.
Right.
And so I think, there were like...
It actually immediately made Scott out, too, but that wasn't clear.
Well, I think right. It came down to, like, breakers or whatever.
It came down to tiebreakers. Like, Scott definitely beat me in the last round of Swiss.
Yeah.
And he still definitely did not make it, unfortunately.
Right. He was still definitely, like, 5 or 6 strength of schedule points.
I think he was third place in Swiss.
Yeah, he was.
Got diversified by the second place in Swiss.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which has been a spike 1 trend. There's been a lot of like 1 knocking out 2 or 2 knocking out 3. Or
I think that all of that is a weird byproduct of the fact that, so like with last year, you had 15 people play Zoe.
Mm-hmm.
This year, I believe there were either 8 or 7 spike 1 decks.
Yep.
Yeah.
And with a field of, I think, close to 100-something people, or over 100-something people.
112, something like
it was
that.
112.
20 something, 121. I don't know.
It reduces the odds that the spike 1s are going to play each other, even at top tables, even in the later rounds. Whereas, like, if you have 15 Zoes, when you get to round 5, 6, and 7, and some of them are still X and 1 or X and 0, like you're just gonna have Zoe mirrors all day and every day. When you have half the number of characters, you don't get the same number of mirrors, so the people getting diversified is lessened.
I'm guessing. I guarantee Sunderman wanted that mirror in that last round of Swiss, and he could have got it. I don't think they played.
I was surprised that they didn't. I assumed that the 2 of them would just play, but
yeah.
Well, from what Tam told me there, he said he scooped to Corey because he didn't think but he thinks Scott's a better player than Corey. And then Scott's seen his deck 3 times from Vegas or whatever, so Corey doesn't have enough information. So if he faced Corey in top cuts, he thinks he has a better matchup against Corey. So that's why he scooped to him. That's why he wanted
very gamesman of him.
Yeah, he wanted. Yeah, that's what he told me at World. So
I think it was his ultimate vengeance.
Yeah, I think so too. I also think so too.
When I found out, I was like, dude, that's like tier super villain move.
Yeah,
right there.
I think it was more along
Make
that.
Make fun of me on YouTube for 6 years now, eh?
Yeah, it's like. See, if you're laughing now when me dressed as a member of the Chinese gymnastics team, make sure you don't make it into top 16. Tables have turned.
Hey, man, his cosplay's been on point the last 2 events he's been to, man. So
sexy Tamarin.
Yeah.
It sure has.
Yeah.
He'd be really popular at those anime conventions.
Okay, so go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, basically, so I think there were 3 or 4 spikes that were sort of like on the edge.
Mm-hmm.
And when they all knew that they were out, I think a lot of them just sort of scooped. I think pretty much all of them just said and gave their opponent like a win. And so they all sort of like fell from 12th, 13th, or whatever completely out.
Yeah.
And I mean that is what you make it, I guess. I think it's still kind of rough for basically like the people who were playing against them, because then they basically just like, I just got scooped to the tops. And, someone else who's like, that makes everyone else who's like actually playing a match, they're like, oh man, like my opponent like isn't scooping because they're still in it. So
I'm pretty sure there was no, at least in the spike 1 diversity category, I'm pretty sure there was no scoop-ins. Like Dave was the only one who was still kind of clinging to a top 16 shot, I think, at that point. The other spike 1s had fallen too low.
Yeah, but there were a bunch of people with 2 losses. No, I'm not saying that they would have. I'm saying they could have been diversified.
No, I don't. Like, I think that they were. I'm pretty sure that at that point, Dave was the only straggler still holding on, and for the diversity prizing, so to speak. Like, I think Dave was the only one still holding on at that point. The other spike 1s had kind of fallen off
With the exception of Sunderman, yeah.
Because I walked through the tables in round 6, and there was no spike 1s besides the 3, Dave, Sunderman, and...
I might be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I might have just been thinking of like round 5.
I know what you mean. And there's definitely like this. There's spike 2 gauntlet was fierce.
Yeah.
They all had 2 losses, and they were all tearing throats out.
Yeah, they fell off a lot more quickly than the spike ones.
I would love to know what beat Sunderman early in the rounds. I don't know. His deck was nasty, and I'm surprised he took an early loss. I don't know what.
Is he playing the exact same? Did he lose to Keenan?
He might have. I know Keenan played about 700 Death Spike lists, which worked well for Keenan because it was a good matchup for him.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, deck that takes 9 minutes to do anything versus deck that wins in 7 minutes.
So, like Keenan eviscerated a pile of spikes on his way to the top.
Yeah.
And other death stuff. He eviscerated Andrew in about 10 minutes during there.
Actually, that's something too. And before we completely get off Worlds, I'll definitely like raise my hand on this one that even after Lubbock, like I did not respect James Stevens' deck at all. Like, they said like, oh no, like it's really good and this and that. And like I looked at it and I was like, I mean, this is cool, but let's see. We sort of joked, we're like Lubbock PTC, ooh, real competitive. Well, then he comes in second at Worlds, so. This thing is. Yeah, go ahead.
I can speak on it a lot. I played it on my stream poorly. At least in game 1, I did not play it very well. Game 2, I kind of started to get it. I'll tell you two big things about this. This is something I've been saying about AK for a while. Their scaling is impossible to ignore. They scale out of control, and so if someone gets like a slow draw against them, they're just going to beat them, and that includes Spike 1. Don't get me wrong. I don't think the Spike 1 matchup is actually favorable for AK. And the fact that he beat Corey in top cuts was very impressive to me. Because, I don't think that matchup's favorable at all. But if the Spike 1 gets a dirtily slow enough draw, and it's totally capable of doing that, that AK can scale to the moon and punish him for it.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing about the AK deck, the biggest thing, and I learned this by playing it, not by looking at it. Because when I looked at the list, I really liked it. It's why I wanted to play it on stream. But I wasn't sure if it was viable as a competitive deck, outside of Lubbock. Mm-hmm. The defense in that deck is so deceptively good.
Yeah.
It is so much harder to kill that deck than this. Its ability to re-ready its best defensive pieces with AK's ability, its ability to, with Tijuana Groceries, cards like Fei Fei and Prepare to Fight, stuff like that. That deck plays great defense. Much better defense than most 6-handers of its nature do. So, he picked on the Cats decks. He picked on Ben and Keenan in top cuts because they would samba out his board. He would ready 2 things and he could still block.
Yeah.
And and he has a lot of health. And if he blocks a couple of times, it takes him AK 2 attacks to kill a 7-hander.
Yep.
That's it.
We saw it in top cuts. Yeah, against Keenan game 2. We blinked. We were talking and he played an attack.
Power Stone.
Yeah, and then he played. I think he played a season guide just because he knew he had to go in. So he played that so he could reveal tops. Then Power Stone, and it was over in 3 minutes. It was insane.
Mm-hmm. So
yeah,
but I think that's the biggest thing that people sleep on that deck. It plays defense. It plays annoying, difficult, hard to kill defense.
Would you call it lame defense?
Yeah. Oh, that's
no. It plays good old fashioned defense.
I think it's actually cool defense for what it's worth. But
no, that's a James deck right there. He's a defensive player by nature, and that's right up his alley.
It is my favorite part of playing as that deck now. I've played it a few more times since I played it on stream, and when you're like, oh, they stunned me out with Samba, I'm going to re-ready my Fei Fei, drop this by 3 speed, block it with a +1 breaker 1. What now? You invested on this I'm going to push this Cats through with this Samba enhance, stun out your board, or this missile launcher. I'm going to re-ready my Fei Fei, drop it. I've got the Fei Fei -3 speed, commit 1. I'm going to ready Tijuana Groceries. I might ready something else in the middle of this using just nonsense. And I'm still going to be able to block this thing. And you had to invest. You had to bank on this working. Yeah. It didn't. And I hit for 10 to 12 in attack.
Yeah.
Right. James took 1 piece of tech out of my version. He said he was toying with it anyways. I'm going to let him think it was his idea. I'm just glad he took it. Chainblade in that deck hits for 100.
Oh, yeah.
It's just like Mega Man 2 Dot. And he was not playing Chainblade in the Lubbock version. He was playing 3 of them in this version. And I guarantee someone tried to poke him with an ISP execution in one of those Spire decks and then took 12 damage.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Chainblade is disgusting in that deck.
Yeah.
Well, to the point Jeremy was making, and I haven't actually played against the deck or as the deck yet. I could only surmise based on what I watched. One of the things that makes that deck more scary to me now that I've seen it in action, while Jeremy is correct that it scales really well late, because it has a card like Power Stone, it scales really well early. Because it's like, all right, well, I have like 7 or 8 foundations, or you have like 7 or 8 foundations early on. Like, boom, Power Stone for 1 billion. Like, I don't have to have a ton of red eye capsules removed early yet. I have this big damage early game threat too. I just scale even better now. Like,
I guess, I mean, even like a Power Stone, I mean, if you commit a red eye capsules for the damage, you give it speed. Then you can ready it, removing another one, give it more speed, then commit it again to name it. So you can basically give it, what, like 3 speed and like
all his attacks are
10 to 12 damage like that.
Damage. And like the scary thing too is that like, and Tim Keefe got super, like, I wouldn't call it lucky, but he played it correctly in game 2. Because James only had 2 attacks in his hand. He had a Hyper Bomb and he had Power Stone. Tim Keefe had a Revoke and he had a low block. An Ace Maneuver, a low block. Yeah, so it's just like, if someone leads with Hyper Bomb and you're still usually at like 25, it's like conventional wisdom that you just kind of take the 5 and hope for the best and wait to see what he plays later. If Tim had taken the 5, James could have easily ripped another Power Stone or another Hyper Bomb and just murdered in that turn. But like that to me is also what makes the deck scary, is as it keeps scaling, you can't afford to take an attack anymore.
Yeah.
Even if it's one he doesn't pump, because if there's more in his hand and he can pump the rest of them, taking 4 or 5 more damage when you didn't have to is often the reason you lose the game.
I mean, I'm always blocking that Hyper Bomb. I don't want to let him see a card.
Yeah,
me too. But
And if you've got the Revoke to hide behind, if he Power Stones you, at least you got to Revoke.
Yeah.
Like you're still going to take half from the 8K
Yeah.
advance, but at least you're not taking all of it, and you don't let him see the extra card because you're a Spike 2 deck. Cards in hand is the greatest value your opponent can have against you.
Yeah, and
you
like
want to take that away.
Jeremy mentioned, the deck defends really well too. Like, one of the biggest MVPs for James in the games against Tim, and something that Tim had trouble answering in game 1 but was able to answer in games 2 and 3, was Adopt, or I think it's not Adopt, it's Trusted Keeper, I think.
Oh,
no,
yeah.
It's the 1/5 with the high block that goes back to your hand.
Yeah,
Humanity's Century.
Humanity Century, that's what it is. So like literally it's just like, I will get this high block back to block your Devastator Cannon, block your Swordfish Plasma Cannon, block your Ace Maneuver, block all of your scary high attacks. Now I always know I have at least 1 high block in my hand. Like
it lets you bank some blocks in your staging area.
Yeah, it's little
it's
things
a card
like
that's
that.
a little underrated.
Yeah, I mean, I played a couple of those in my like Order Guile, but yeah, for basically that same reason of just like at least now with like Fei Fei and some of the other stuff, like order spams are a lot better than they were.
I would say they're a lot better. They're one very important part better.
I thought there were
others
some other ones as well, but
no,
maybe it's just the one.
It's just the one, unfortunately.
But yeah, like that was just sort of one of those ones where it's like, well, it's a 1 diff, and in an emergency, it's a high block.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
sure.
Okay, so moving on from that, let's talk about MK.
Yes.
We've got characters passed out. I saw the little video on the Jawfist. They had people ripping them out of each other's hands to look at them and stuff. But I was, like we said, we kind of started the show off with it, kind of jumped the gun a bit, but we're all pretty much excited about it. Let's hear some of your guys' favorites, if you got any. So whoever wants to go first. I'll go last, because...
I'll run it off.
Run it off, Rob. Go
this I can talk about. Worlds, less so. The 2 that really jumped out to me were... The first one was Devora. That's actually the one I'm probably the most interested in playing, which is, I guess, like a little different, because... like have a bit more of a reputation as like playing, 5-handers, some of that other
you want to like
size stuff.
You tend to like meaty guys who hit real hard. That's like 5-handers, but
not as much as some. But
you sound like Rio there. You sound like Rio there, big beefy guys.
But I guess like the biggest thing for Devora, and I guess this. So I'll reveal my true colors. I looked at her and I was just like, oh man, this is like another character that wears her splat so well. A 4 diff, long attack strings, and has
that
like
has to be her best card, right? Besides maybe Urban Shower.
Yeah,
like those,
probably.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely up there. And so like that's one, and then we've all like Scott and I like have both been fans of Mega Ball, which is another one which is like low diff, 4 damage, makes strings easier. So like it sort of fits well with some of the stuff that like we kind of like to play. And her other E, like the once per turn one, is amazing. Like just a bunch. I mean, she's 17, so like that's not the best place to be right now because you can take 17 in one attack really easily.
That's a casual missile launcher.
Casual missile launcher.
That's just an average day missile launcher out of jail.
Like shorts and a polo shirt missile launcher.
Yeah.
I mean, I've definitely said, I'm like, I will play this and just randomly lose games in one hit. But that's just the kind of thing, like, again, like, makes blocks a lot easier, makes passing that extra attack, like, a lot easier, and just gains you that life back, like, really quick. I think she's someone that's going to be really kind of annoying. And something like, especially like playing a lot of life, I kind of like those longer attack strings where you start getting into that, like, 4th and 5th attack. And I think she's someone that's really going to be able to do that just between her once per turn E and playing stuff like Chris Platt. So
I just to chime in on that. I got to play against a Devora actually before the MK side event. So this was before I was Ben Lambright, so like on the Discord, was playing it. And boy, if you don't one-shot her, she's deceptively hard to kill. She's tiny, but she gained so much. He was playing her with like, I want to say Sliding Ankle Breaker, Urban Shower, Kersplat. They all gain life.
Yeah.
They won't stop gaining life. Like he would not die.
The cockroach. She just keeps coming back.
And if I was playing anyone other than Jacqueline Briggs, who then played a 30 damage ace maneuvers on him, killed him from half. But he half blocked it and he still died.
What a man.
Jeez, man.
It would have been way uglier. If you don't one-shot her, she's a pain in the ass to kill.
Do you think like I think when you say the long attack string thing, Rob, I'm hoping for a spiritual reprint of Nomai for her. Because she gives like that pump to check.
I mean, that was
she's gonna have something big in the back end.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, it's like, I mean, Nomai is for sure like the card that I miss most out of the King of Fighters block.
Yeah,
obviously.
I don't miss that card.
I don't miss Yumi Barai, so you know, whatever.
They're fair.
Some people don't like fair cards. Some people don't like unfair cards. Different tastes.
But the other thing too is like that's definitely a deck that I can pretty easily like slip 1 or 2 copies of Dimension Door into, which I don't like passing up an opportunity to play that card.
Yeah,
so,
no,
that card is the most fun. No argument here.
And the other one too is Takeda.
Oh, that guy's
the other thing too is when I read Takeda, I was convinced he was like a 6-hander. I thought he was like a 626 or something like that. And when I looked at him again, I saw he was a 720. I was like, oh, like clear out. Like this guy is gonna be doing some ridiculous stuff.
When I read Jackie, Kotal Khan, and Takeda, like I got the vapors. I was like, oh lord,
vapors. This card defender says.
Like, what is with these characters? This character says she's an 833 that does 1 million damage. This character says he's going to discard your whole hand with Thundering Torture, like K-Dash, like 2-die. And then this character is just effed up. This character makes everything through a throw and then clears his card pool and turns on like Plasma Cannon or something.
Yeah.
Like, what is it? What are any of these cards?
By the way, Jeremy, I don't know if you... I'll throw out some fun tech for Kotal real quick. I don't know if you've seen us talking about this. We realized that you can play Vengeance the Fallen Angel, make it a throw, make it like 12 or more damage, depending on what you have.
Good start.
Get it, play your other attacks, and then play Corner Your Prey at the end. Play it again at the end of your string.
Ow! My kidneys.
That's a little more complicated than my plan of like play something gross, make it do a bunch of damage, then drop a Plasma Cannon because I cleared my card pool and now I can multiple it. But
also, it does say discard, I believe.
I don't. Yeah. I think Plasma Cannon does, but you get
you're thinking of like Ace Maneuver and finding it was lost.
You're playing spike stuff if you're doing this like life version I'm talking about, but
yeah.
Oh, the heck with that!
But yeah, that sounds disgusting.
Take your dive and make sure it hits.
Yeah, that's exactly what I've been thinking. Yeah,
I'm not allowed to play 1-checks, but when other people play 1-checks against me, it's my worst nightmare. Like Keenan's deck is like a nightmare. It took 2 games. It was like 40 turns for me to realize he was a Mexican Typhoon Vicious deck.
I was hiding by the border the whole time.
I'd only heard of it in
Waiting to
meme.
strike.
Like, only in meme legend did I think that deck actually existed, and then I died.
Legend,
I was so sad.
But yeah, the Takeda, that's something too, and I don't know if it's, I hope that they will continue to update sort of like their little FAQ page, because there's definitely a few things with the MK characters that I feel like could be clarified a bit, and one of them is how Takeda works exactly, which is that when he gives something a combo ability, it doesn't give the attack the combo requirement.
Right.
So, like, we were initially like looking at him and like, oh man, like you can make this a combo and do this and that, and you can give that, but it's only going to work if you give it to an attack that already has combo. Because otherwise you'll gain the E and not be able to play it. But sort of the flip side of that is you can use some attacks that have like fairly difficult combo requiremms and then
Like
play them
horrific.
easily.
Yeah. My idea with this guy, and I know it's a card that's under the radar, I think Thundering Torture is absurd in this guy.
Mm-hmm.
That's discard 2 cards out of your opponent's hand. This attack gets +5/+5 probably on average.
Yeah.
And
Well, Jeremy, going back to your 1-checks, obviously you play it and copy that Thundering Torture
On Crit Split?
onto a codename Julia.
Julia.
Yeah,
We've
pitch the
already
cards.
looked at their hand and made them discard like the low check, so that you're just giving it like +10/+10.
Yeah.
yeah.
You eat 3 cards away by doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do.
That's absurd.
Yeah,
I mean,
like-
you don't even need the Julia to eat 3 cards if you have a momentum too. One
Pretty
momentum
much.
is you got the other enhance on Thundering Torture.
Yeah.
That's
Well, I
10
don't
cards,
think you.
You don't get the other enhance. You only copy the combo.
No, I know, but it's already on there. Like, say you're playing it on a Thundering, and you're
Oh,
just
you play a Thundering Torture and stack it.
and you're just
Yeah.
doubling the Thundering Torture.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then if you want to use Takeda's other enhance, maybe you give it the Smite enhance and just make them have to.
Actually, that is a card that I think is sort of a low key, like amazing combo like ability.
Oh.
Just give anything. It's just like, oh, and by the way, while we're at it, you can only block this with a +3 mod.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
like,
So
oh,
you-
okay.
you
So-
go ahead and have fun.
My funny meme idea with Takeda, which the first one was already blown up. We don't get unblockable crash slams in this day and age. It's unfortunate. But my other fun idea is you play attack, play everywhere,
Mhm.
give it the +3 damage, so now they can't enhance, and then you just play the combo E on Thundering Torture twice. So now they get to play no E's. You get to rip 2 cards out of their hand,
And they eat a billion
and now
damage.
you have this borderline close to 20 damage, 7 speed attack.
Oh yeah.
I can tell
I
you the other one that I like is you block with a combo attack. You reversal
Oh.
with Nero Fatica.
This guy's
And
a man.
And you give it the combo enhance on critical split.
Yes.
And then
What
if
a
you really want to,
man.
you can double it. So you have a multiple 4 +6/+6 on all the multiples, and just cross your fingers that they don't have a prepare to fight.
If I
What?
if
What
I
a
ever
man.
get hit by this, I swear to God, like I am just like scooping my deck up, even if it doesn't kill me.
Challenge
I'm
accepted.
out. Like,
I have one
God.
job. No, like Takeda. To piggyback off of what Rob is saying, Takeda is the wet dream of anybody that loves building weird shit.
Yeah.
Like this is the gimmick player or the deck builder's fantasy. Is this
I
character?
feel like you mispronounced Quan Chi there, but
Yeah.
Takeda's definitely second place.
True.
There's not enough memes to be had with Quan Chi, Jeremy Ray.
Are you? When you can have any enhance in the game, the man is made of memes. Like that's all he can do.
He absorbed the memes.
Like there's no limit to the bullshittery that character can pull off.
That's
Like
true. It's true.
like you think that like sure all of them are gonna have Napalm Man, but like you're gonna be facing every iteration of dumb stuff from that character.
I
Like
mean, Quan Chi sure can copy Takeda,
yes, he can.
oh yeah,
and then you just become full circle. You literally live the plot of the one.
what? Yeah, I was gonna say it gets confusing, but it could happen.
It could happen.
One of the other things too, I guess we were talking about Deadlock, is another card that I think got a little bit of play this past weekend was Getaway Fire.
Yeah.
And that could have some life outside of Fae for him, because again, when he puts that attack on top and then like discards it to copy, So he can, give it whatever combo he wants, and then the deadlock E is pick up the top card of your discard pile, so he can just pick up whatever attack it was that you picked. So, like, there's definitely some, like, really, really cool stuff that I think that he can be doing. And I think you'll just see a whole lot of cool and focused.
Yep.
And maybe a little bit more no surprises, because anything that, you have that E speed, like, discard the top card of their deck, like, you're going to want it.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I don't know. I like characters like that, you can sort of, like, look at a card where you were just like, I mean, this card's, like, okay, but not great. And then just sort of go, well, actually, like, this card might be insane.
Yeah.
Like something like Nero Fatica. I think him and, like, Liu Kang both could see a lot of use from, like, some of the Jetta, like, like especially, like, the reversal combo cards.
Yeah.
That are frankly pretty bad.
I think that's the only thing Liu Kang can do right now, honestly.
Yeah.
Until we see it.
Yeah. And, obviously, like, once we see these support. But that's kind of the fun thing, I feel like. It's one of the reasons I really like the Tin characters from Darkstalkers and Mega Man, is they really didn't have any support. So it's kind of like free reign. It's like there is, like, the opposite of Bebop, where they're basically like, here's about 5 or 6 cards that probably go in your deck.
Yeah.
Maybe some more, maybe some less. Yep. But when you just have, like, 2 or 3 support cards, like, it's on you to figure out what works and what doesn't. So, sort of these early spoilers of just characters, like, that really kind of gets the juices flowing. Like, when you start, like, going, well, what can I do now? And, like, some of it may be good, some of it may become obsolete once you see what they can actually do, but it definitely, like, sort of gets your mind going. So.
All right. Marco, why don't you go next?
All right, so Takeda's definitely on my list, but he's been talked about enough. So one of the characters I really like, I also like Devora. I think Devora is, like, I know I mentioned the second coming of Snake Man earlier in Arid Black, but where we had Snake Man before, now we have Spider Lady. Like, whereas Snake Man can only pump a specific zone, Devora only pumps a specific printed damage. But that means you get to play with all 3 zones. You just have to play with all 4 diffs. But it scales very similar to how Snake Man does. Mm-hmm. The more attacks you play, the bigger they're going to get. And unlike Snake Man, where he might have trouble passing in the latter parts of his turn because the string is getting long, Devora is like, well, the last attack I play is going to be the easiest to pass because my check gets boosted. She's neat. One of the characters I really like is Katana.
Oh, man, you took mine. Damn. Yeah, I love her. She's awesome, man.
If there was a character that I was excited to play, like, in terms of just all of her abilities doing something you would want at any point in the game, she's got a damage and speed pump title, the same ability that only costs 1 life. She has a way to kick out an attack for the cost of vitality. She's J-Pop Star. But the cool part about it is, 1, it's not a firstie, and which is the big important thing, and it doesn't require, obviously, a specific symbol. It also works on multiples. So, a multiple has a printed difficulty of 0. Get that out of there.
Yep.
When she's at Desperation, she essentially turns into Sniper Joe.
Yep.
So you basically just, like, lose none, right? Like, it would basically just be free discard.
Yeah, you just pay 0 and discard the multiple. I think the fact that she shares 2 symbols with Vega and 1 symbol with, like, Shungoku Satsu, I think is a really big deal. Like, looking at it right now, I am more than happy to just build, like, a death weapon / range deck that lets me play stuff like My Beautiful Face is Ruined and Man Behind Them, or Masked Assassin.
Yeah.
The stats she gets, like, from her enhance ability, like, granted, you can only play ranged or weapon attacks. Guess what those 3 symbols have an abundance of?
She has
ranged and weapon attacks.
She has Hyper Bomb. It's like that.
She has
Hyper
Bomb. She has, cards like Everywhere, if we're just talking about death.
Yep.
If we want to go into evil, she's also got some cool weapon attacks and ranged attacks in there. And if you go into good, not only does she get cool weapon and ranged attacks, she gets Gateway Shuffle.
Does she get Missile Launcher? Is that a ranged?
No, that card doesn't have ranged.
Wait, it doesn't have weapon either?
No, it just has 3 keyword abilities. It has Stun, Powerful, EX.
Oh, that's too bad.
I thought pretty much all of Jet stuff was, like, instead of ranged, it was weapon.
But
that makes me sad.
A lot of them are weapon.
Like, on good, she gets to play Gateway Shuffle on top of whatever else she's doing. So she can be like Black Dog Fangs into Arms Vengeance and be like, all right, this Arm Vengeance got +5 speed, or +3 speed, +4 damage, and now I can throw a Gateway on top of it. Like, she's a scary character.
Yeah, she's going to be awesome.
I showed that I showed that good katana list on stream yesterday on my stream that I made, the Arm Vengeance, ranged weapon suite thing, and with just 4 gateway shuffles, all stun to help push her speed through.
Yeah.
Like, I think that deck list is actually very strong. Like, I think without seeing any of her support, you can win a lot of matches just by pushing Arm Vengeance stun attacks through Dust Crushers with gateways on them.
You play any Mega Ball?
Does it have stun?
It has weapon.
It has weapon. It makes your
And
range.
It makes your range cheaper.
You can play Rapid Mega Buster though, which also has stun and range.
Dude, we have like a local guy who like would always play those. Like, he played like this terrible all Ryu deck, like the 2-dot, that would just run like Mega Ball and like Bicycle Kick and like all these like crappy low damage like stun 2 like attacks and just wreck people because you were stunned out and all of a sudden everything's like +5, +6.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah, it's gross. The attack lineup I had, sorry, was just 19 attacks, and it was just all the jet stuff with stun, armed, fangs, aim, relentless, and then dust crushers. And you just go, I'm going to stun you out a bunch, and then I'm going to put a gateway shuffle on this armed vengeance that's doing 900 damage, and you're probably really sad about it.
Because everything
Like,
needs to do 900 damage nowadays.
It's more than 40, but less than 1 million.
There
Yes.
you go.
Exactly.
That good old UFS math says that is correct. There's 2 other characters I'm excited about, and I'll try to jet through them really fast. The first is Reptile. If there was ever a character that loved sharing 2 symbols with improved design, it's probably Reptile. Like,
And you said excitement and reptile in the same sentence, and I'm real confused.
Jeremy, Reptile can play the Badger Club. That's why he's exciting.
Oh.
So the thing about Reptile that I think is cool is not the damage pump. It's not the discard ability. It's the damage reduction. Like, everyone and their brother plays highs and lows these days. Like, arguably all the best attacks are either going to be low or high. The first one, yeah, -1 damage isn't a lot. The next one's getting -3. Any subsequent ones after that are getting -3.
Mhm.
Killing this guy, if your attack base is heavy on highs or lows or doesn't have a ton of mids, is going to be a nightmare.
Oh,
Like-
let me tell you, I played against Dave Powell playing Reptile in the MKX side event, and every attack in my deck was a high or low, and it was a slog. to kill this man.
Not to mention the fact that he shares a symbol with Graven's Castle Ruins and Woodman's Leaf Shield. Like, this guy, if you build the deck around it right, can just sit there and never play damage and wait till you have 1 or 2 attacks left in your or 1 or 2 cards left in your hand, and that's when he uses the discard ability, and that's when you get killed. That's when you can get your things like Improved Design or Badger Club or Elimination Modes online, and then that's when this guy becomes really scary. I think he's a deceptively good counterpuncher, and I think that's what makes him cool. And then the last character on my list, he's been mentioned a couple times already, but I think Liu Kang is really neat. Like, right off rip, this guy loves to play Tengu Dive. Like, this guy's like, man, you're going to have hard times blocking my Tengu Dives? This is great. And he can go tutor more Tengu Dives out of his discard pile.
Mhm.
Like, I think this guy has a lot of potential. He's unlike Takeda, where, like, Takeda's good, like, off rip. Like, we've already got some gross stuff with Takeda. I feel like once we get to see Liu Kang support, this guy's going to be like, okay, everybody and their brother's going to try to play Liu Kang.
Yeah.
I really like there's just like the pool clog mechanic.
Yeah.
That's something that like doesn't get. I feel like there's not a ton of it, which probably isn't the worst idea. I mean,
No, it's not.
Especially when you're clogging like your opponent's like pool on their turn. Like that's it's not necessarily like fun.
Well,
But
like, you mentioned Jada's reversals. Like, Jada has reversals with combo.
Mhm.
Liu Kang can trigger his R by playing a reversal
Yep.
with combo.
Yep.
And it's like, all right, well, you're not killing me this turn. You also have to worry about this damage. Oh, by the way, since I did this on a reversal, like, you probably have 3 or 4 cards in your card pool now. I get to filter the top 4 cards of my deck and find a combo attack.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's scary good.
it is.
Yeah.
The other fun thing for Reptile is he can do what Zangief only wishes he could do, which is every single time they attack you, he just plays his E that says like your next mid gets +2, and just sort of eat like 3 attacks and then play a Spider Suplex for like +8.
Yeah.
For all of it.
For all
For
the
a
health.
while. Or even, like, even if he wants to be a little troll, he can play a Sregio for +8.
That
There you
And
go.
then draw more cards. Like, I think that character is deceptively good. He's not as aggro as I think most people are going to try to play him out rip, but like.
Oh, I think people are going to grind with him. I think he's going to be a grinder.
I think that's how you should play him. Like, that's a character. It's like, man, you overcommitted to try to kill me. You only have 1 or 2 cards left.
There's a part of me that reminds me of Dimitri 1 dot, except way less overwhelming to control decks that Dimitri 1 dot was, where it's like, I'm going to grind you out with superior value. All my attacks are going to get this much damage. Every time you attack me, your attacks are going to be this much. Like, it's much like Dimitri 1. Like, I'm playing my numbers are better than your numbers game for the whole game. The difference is when Dimitri 1 was doing, he was also saying, by the way, don't play a control deck or you lose.
Yeah.
Reptile, you can play a control deck into and have a reasonable chance. But Reptile's numbers are even more extreme than Dimitri's. He's looking at +3 to everything, and you're looking at -3 to everything, theoretically, depending on your attack lineup.
I mean, I could see him having some trouble with some of the current decks, like especially Spike 1. And Coffee Samba Perot are both like heavy on the mids, and like stuff like that. I think Bebop, between ISSP, like Fallen Angel, Swimming Birds, and Cats, like there's a lot of pretty scary mid attacks. So if your opponent's like rocking some of those, like you're gonna still have some concerns. But yeah, especially like the other decks where, I mean, I've certainly built decks that are like mono high or, mostly high with like 1 or 2 lows. And man, just like looking at him with all that, you're just like
Spike 2. If you're playing Spike 2 with him, you're like, oh God, this is miserable. I don't damage pump anything. And 9/10 of my lineup is highs and lows.
Yeah, like I know Jet can damage pump stuff, but most of Jet's best attacks are going to be high or low.
Jeremy, I know you're high on Jackie Briggs. You want to illuminate us?
I mean, I'll start with her. That's
8 hand size 30 through life, baby.
That's what I'm going to be playing with. She's like a 6.8 hand size character. But
decimal math. Get it out of here.
But I love Jackie. I love characters with built-in win conditions. I love characters who are low hand size that make your opponent make tough decisions. I think that like low hand size characters that are very passive are not my thing. People always wonder why I didn't play like Clark before. I was never a fan of Clark, and it's part of why I'm not huge on Johnny Cage. He's one of my favorite characters from the games. I'm still going to mess around with him. But Johnny Cage is very passive, reactive. I like characters who say, you're going to play my game now. Like, this is the pace we're going to go at, and you need to accept this. And Jackie Briggs is the excellent example of that, where it's like, I played her in the MKX side event tournament. I went 4-1 in that event. I never got to play Kevin for the actual, to see who the true winner would have been if we would have played. But Kevin was just sandbagging Mad Pro anyways. I was actually just Jackie. I didn't sandbag anybody. Like,
what a dick.
Oh yeah, he was just playing Mad Pro with Kung Jin game 1. Then he decided Mad Pro. She hits like a truck. Understanding how to use her powerful is crucial. It is not once per turn, and using it to just backload or front load certain attacks is a huge mistake fundamentally. You need to look at her ability like, I can discard a momentum to give an attack +6 damage. I have prototype printed on my character, except I don't have to destroy something. And she can't tax their hand. She's a 5-hander when attacking still, generally. She has kind of sculpt that 5-hand, but she's still only going to have 5 cards. She doesn't have speed pump. Her symbols aren't well inclined towards stun. You need to pressure them by hitting them really hard over and over again until they crack, basically.
Yeah.
You literally, like, it's the most, like, Rio manly strategy of all time. But, like, I play Tijuana Takeoff because that's a 2 low for 12. And then I play Space Salvo because it makes my ace maneuvers a 5 high for 10. And then I play, Cleaning the Fish and all these things. Like, you want to make everything a haymaker, and you wait till they flinch. And you just keep hitting them with haymakers until they die. And then you've got some unfair stuff. She reminds me of Spike 1 in a way, in that her game plan's mostly fair stuff, but kind of crazy. But then she has like one really unfair thing, and that's when you reverse Urban Shower somebody for like 15 to 18 damage.
Yeah.
Like, she's gross. She's my favorite character. I'm gonna play her in this set. In the games, her and Cassie were my 2 favorite characters. I love the second generation characters in this game. I played it when it came out, and I played through the story mode, and I got really attached to Cassie and Jackie. And I'm really excited. She's a little keyword locked, and that's going to kind of hurt her building potential.
That tech stun is kind of rough, but
you don't have to play all the tech attacks, luckily. Like, she doesn't need to be able to pump all of her stuff, but the more stuff she can pump, the better it is for her.
Right.
That not being once per turn was, I think, an inspired design on their part, because that ability screams, like I would normally say once per turn in the old days. And that would have actually, I think, crippled her viability. She just would have been an Urban Shower gimmick deck.
Yeah.
Or like whatever other reversals. Now that she can actually play it across her strings, it gives her a breath of plays. Like, Tijuana Takeoff is a 2-low for 12. And let me tell you, a lot of people took 6 damage from my Tijuana Takeoffs over the week. Like, it was just really fun. The other character I'm excited about is Raiden. Raiden was my favorite character in the original Mortal Kombat games, Raiden and Johnny. Boy, he does weird stuff.
So I know he can ready 3. What are the other ones? I remember
He's
looking at
magic
it being
on one of those abilities.
Enhanced Destroy Foundation, you will not escape your opponent. They have to play a non-attack card as their next form before they can play another attack.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then Enhanced Destroy Foundation to gain a momentum. All playable once per turn. And then ready 3. So he's going to be hovering around that 6 foundation mark perpetually. On my stream, I showed off a water allies using the Dr. Wily 2 stuff. So you're playing Skull Fortress, all the ally cards, and that helps pay the bills on his 2 destroy costs. And if you remember, one of the strengths of the Dr. Wily 2 core, we've all played against it, I think, at this point a few times. Everything that gets committed gets destroyed and put down into play ready again. But every once in a while you fail an attack and you have to commit everything, and then it's hard to catch up. Raiden says enhance once per turn. I catch up, and the ally stream continues going.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you get to play cute stuff like Siberian Scientist. You ready 2 of them, draw 2 cards. Things like that. You'll not escape on a character can never, ever, ever, ever be underestimated.
Well,
there's decks that fall dead to that.
Right. I mean, it's magic. You will not escape was you have to play an attack, right?
No.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, as your next form after.
It's magicking, yeah.
Yeah. I got you. Okay.
But
right.
Same
That's
They have to play. Their next form has to be a non-attack, or they have to pass their entire turn too. It's not even just some way around it. So, he can fuel a lot of cards. He can gain fast momentum every turn, including on defense.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a Skull Fortress out or something, you can just gain a momentum while your opponent's trying to punch you and force them into awkward attack strings, re-ready your best defensive cards, draw cards with Siberian Scientist, draw cards just by, ditching momentum to whatever card draw mechanics you have. There's just so much cool stuff within this character. He's fragile. 625 is a slow starter, especially going second.
Mm-hmm.
And his symbols aren't the strongest right now. But I'm very excited about him. I feel like there's a lot of potentiality there as a character. And I love that there's certain matchups that he's going to be able to sit down and go, well, I probably win this matchup. Even something like Reptile, who should be able to grind a character like Raiden out. Reptile's playing a lot of 5 diff attacks. He's playing a real heavy thing, and he doesn't cheat his progressive very well. So getting Raiden enhanced every time you play a throw means it's probably the only throw you're playing that turn.
Yeah.
That gives Raiden a lot of time to set up pieces. He synergizes well with Cowboy Battery, a few other things. I was going to try him with a mixture of the ally stuff and the Twinkle Murdoch stuff to clear their hand. This character doesn't push attacks. He has no speed pump. He has no discard. He has to find a way to get his attacks through. And I actually think by using Save the Sea Rats, Unmet Demands, Space Warrior Squad, which he can pay for using his enhance, you can strip your opponent's hand and then hit them with critical mass Cowboy Batteries and stuff like that, which is also an ally. Mm-hmm. So that's my idea for him. He's the other one I'm excited about. I don't know if Chris is going to bring up Quan Chi. I don't plan on playing Quan Chi.
No, I don't plan on playing Quan Chi. I have a local who wants to play
I think we have to talk about
him. Yeah, we can talk about him. Yeah. You want to talk about him after I do my first
Yeah.
pick was taken with Katana. But
all right, let's do Chris. But then I think
we can talk Quan Chi after
Quan Chi. This needs to be that man needs to be discussed.
Yeah. So Katana was talked about. She's one of my favorites from MK2. I mained her in the arcade when I played. So because she did dumb unblockable infinites and stuff like that. But that's besides the point.
I'd prefer not to have that.
But it's not going to happen.
Aspect of her character represented.
Yeah. But anywho. I like it. She has, what Marco said about how she has those 3 relevant abilities. Her speed and damage is something that I think those symbols don't lack, but those keywords lack in a way. They a lot of those are slower, bigger hitting stuff like Cowboy Battery, XX, and all that stuff. But I'm excited for Johnny Cage. I know Jeremy isn't really a high on the reactive character, but I look at him as a deck builder's like dream because his R is not normally can play. So
it's not symbol lock.
It's not symbol
you can
lock.
play anything.
So instantly I thought of, well, 4X Secret Stash is going in the deck. I'm probably going to play him off of order, and I'm just going to tutor out everything I need as fast as possible. Like, he's bridging the races deck, I think. Like, you bring that in, it readies instantly. You can... his damage pump negation is kind of bang, bait.
It's bang vulnerable.
It's bang vulnerable. But
you go get a Bebop Blues as one of your first responses.
Yep, and then Tijuana Groceries is amazing in him for -3/+3 damage on everything. So as long as you have stuff to fuel it. I think his symbols are the same as Clark, except he doesn't have fire, right? Yeah,
he has earth instead of fire.
His earth. So I haven't really built him yet. I haven't built any of the characters other than the Katana because I need to see his support first because I don't want to lock him into, he's a throw character because he's a 5-hander. But I think you could do some pretty cool stuff off of good with like multiple attacks or order using a lot of the stun stuff that they have, like the stun pieces. But
allow me to propose an engine to you that I saw over the weekend.
Go ahead.
Aaron Cook's Fey deck used Black Dog Fangs, Graven Castle, and then Assassination Attempt using Graven over and over again to pay for the Black Dog's Fangs are. So you shove the Assassinate, you get the two copies of Black Dog Fangs, and then you destroy a foundation, put an Assassination Attempt, kick it out to resolve Black Dog Fangs, play a new Black Dog Fangs, you Graven, put an Assassination. As long as you can destroy a foundation, usually the one you committed to pass your check, you can Black Dog Fangs basically infinitely as long as you have foundations to pay the bills.
Or you don't cycle.
And Johnny Cage is going to be so good at assembling all of those pieces to make that combo work that I think he's a completely reasonable choice for that engine. Sure, the Assassination Attempt is coming in way off symbol or whatever, but you're only putting it in
block anyway. So
you're just putting it in with Graven.
And
you're playing like one or two of them.
That's
awesome. Fun thing as well, you can play White House with them.
Oh, yeah.
So you make him a 6-hander when you use that ability, and then it's harder to bang him because they have to check a 7 for their bang.
Yep, that's also true. Yeah,
that's also a totally viable choice.
Yep. Yeah, I think that I actually did I made a list on the way back on the flight, and I didn't have internet, so it was all by memory and stuff. But it was an order deck that played all the best stuff that he could play off his two other symbols, plus a bunch of random shit that he can just cheat in because why not? So I think go ahead, Jeremy. Go ahead.
I was just saying, I think you could take Aaron, because it's up, he made top 16 with it. I think you take Aaron Cook's Fey list and put Johnny Cage on top of it, and then tweak it a little bit for specific to Johnny Cage's strengths, like put in Tribal Protectors, which help with the Black Fang loops. And things like that. And you turn his entire massive staging area into a very hard to beat win condition. Even stuff that clears out the Black Fangs that would normally thing it, as long as you have an attack in, you can play the attack in, Graven Castle, put the Black Fangs back in. The castle both finds the pieces for the combo for yourself and enables the combo to go off and turns your whole staging area into offense.
That's awesome.
So I think like Johnny Graven Castle Black Fangs is the default position to take him because his hardest thing is going to be killing people. And there's an inevitability to that once his staging area gets big enough. That just means you're going to win.
Fun thing with Tribal as well, even if you're not using it to like pass the checks, you can use it for pump, and then it will ready on your opponent's turn, so you get to use it for DR.
That's true.
So that card just does everything.
I just started calling him Dad Bod. It's just Dad Bod Cage now.
Johnny Dad Bod?
Yeah.
We were also talking about the Marathi one. That's like
the 5 difficulty.
Unholy Prophecy. That's a trick I thought too.
I think that card's too cute to actually play.
I think so too, but it's fun.
Unless you're on those symbols.
The hard one of boys.
I mean, basically, right. If you're on Earth, or that's it, right? He's Earth, order, and good. So if you're on Earth and have like some 6 diffs, sure. I wouldn't run it if you can't make it 1 difficulty as well. But
True.
True. But I do think UFS Dad has to play Mortal Kombat Dad.
I think
that's very fitting.
He is my favorite fighting game character.
How is Raiden not Mortal Kombat Dad? That guy babysits half the cast.
Johnny is literally Cassie's dad. The whole plot of MKX is that basically Johnny is Cassie's dad and passed down his super god killing genes.
Yeah. Yep.
His ball punching genes.
Yep.
Like,
he better
Cage
have an
really
ultra
has-
rare of that.
Like, I don't know if you've ever played that game, but in the bridge from it, Johnny Cage has the blood of, like, ancient race that used to battle the gods in him.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, Quan Chi and stuff is scared to shit of him, because Johnny Cage, when he fights Quan Chi, he gets, like, powered up like Goku.
Yeah, he does.
And then, like, so, like, the whole plot of the game is them negating Johnny Cage so they can, you know, dump on Earth. And then Cassie has the power, too, and just dumps on everybody.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
It's a great... the story's fantastic. I love the story.
It's really cool.
It's really good.
That game could be called, like, Cage Family Values.
That game's just called White People with Plot Armor.
Also, like, Sonya Blade is, like, the bitchy mom.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the Kardashians, the fighting game. Like,
and then, like, they have, like, their minority friends. Like, Cage Family Values and their minority friends. Like,
it's literally keeping up with the Kardashians,
and
the fighting game.
So...
Okay, so let's talk about.
So speaking of Quan Chi,
speaking of Quan Chi, go ahead, take it away. Yeah, I had a buddy. I know a lot of people. Was it Big Johnson doing crazy things with him? Does anybody
Big
have
Johnson? Martin McMahon.
Yeah. Does anybody have
Martin
him pulled
McMahon
up?
is all well. So here's the I'll do a little thing because I know Martin was in the Discord. So I saw his sort of take on it before I saw anybody else's. And his sort of philosophy, if you will, about Quan Chi is he was just like, well, I just want to play a 7-hander that has 5 hand size abilities. He's like, the whole reason they're 5 hand size abilities is because they don't have 7 cards, and I have 7 cards, so I'll just take them.
I think Martin was very much onto something with this deck list, and I ended up taking it home. Like the idea, I played him during the Swiss rounds.
Mm-hmm.
And around turn 3 or 4, he played out probably a 9 attack string on me on turn 3 or 4, where he just emptied his entire deck onto the board. And it was like playing against a Pokemon deck. Like I've said this before in my stream, but he was going into his deck with Let's Party, finding stuff, getting stuff out of his discard pile with Napalm Man, and he basically just tutored out every attack in his deck and then ended on a huge Cats, which got a bunch of speed because there's a bunch of character cards in his discard pile. and had he less partied a Revoke instead of what he did, he would have killed me very comfortably turn 3, all 33 of my health after playing like a 7 attack string. Because he wasn't even doing this was a first draft. He was using Dimitri to clear his progressive. If he used Aaron Black, he could have scooped 2 of those Let's Parties into his momentum, cleared his. That's a 2 Dimitris basically worth of progressive, and then dumped those into the Cats powerful and hit me for 100.
Yeah,
this was not an optimal version of this deck. And on turn 3, he basically tutored his entire deck and killed me. This character is nuts, and there's so much variation available to this character. I'm very excited for the day where I play against a Quan Chi who's like, oh, I don't have the kill yet. I'm just going to copy a Lekman, clear my whole card pool, draw 3 cards, and then build out 5 and pass in perfectly good shape or something. This motherfucker can do anything. He's crazy. There's going to be so many iterations on this character.
It's 4chan the character, boys.
I'm putting it now. This dude has an above 50% chance of getting banned. And I'm actually okay with that. I think that he's a super ambitious character design. Yeah. And I think that's cool. And I think that if you're going to make a really dumb character, they better be cool when they go out the door. Don't make them do something lame like Skullman got banned for just being the lamest shit in the world. And, even Yori and Heutzel, they got banned because they were too good at just punching you. This character's gonna get banned because he enables you to draw your whole deck on turn 4 or something. He's gonna get banned for the coolest shit when he gets banned.
Yeah.
And I'm real excited for that.
Imagine if Twinkle Murdoch had still been around and Quan Chi could stuff cards in people's momentum every turn and then just kill them with Ganymede terrorists or fucking destruction. Why not use Twinkle Murdoch?
Because you can do it more than once per turn. You can do it every attack.
Yeah. Now,
you can instant destroy. That's so good.
He removes them from the discard pile, right? That's how he does it?
Yeah, but if you have 2 of them in there.
Yeah. No, I'm just one. No, I haven't really read him yet.
Yeah.
I just haven't read him. I haven't read him completely yet, so.
Yeah, so he removes it from it's remove him from the discard pile.
Yeah.
And he gets all the enhances on that character.
And I know he has the Gabrick.
It's one of those things too because it's really good with anything that's like a once per turn,
Yep.
or even like
Once
some
per
of them
game.
that are like once per game.
Yeah.
You know, anything like that, because he doesn't care. Like, you know, even if he copies it again, he's getting a new instance of it.
Yeah.
So even though you've played it from like a different version, like you can play it again because it's a different like version of the power.
Yeah, he's awesome.
I know, like, you know, we've been talking with Martin a little bit more about sort of his like deck and some of the things that he can do with it, and he's even, you know, they've sort of talked about sort of combining some of his stuff with some of the things that like Big Johnson was doing, where they're saying like first attack you play like the Devastator Cannon, copy Spike 2, give it the multiple, or like make it discard, give it the multiple, ready on the multiple copy, you copy Napalm Man,
Pick up the cannon again.
pick up the cannon again, and then if you have like another Spike,
Spike
then you
2,
can
just
copy
multiple it
Spike
out.
again on the like second one. Yeah, I mean, it's just
Jesus Christ.
You can play
he's
the
one of
same
those
Devastator cannon for as many Spike 2s as you have, and Napalms have.
and he's just somebody that right, is basically like one of those guys that's constrained pretty much by your like imagination.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's how I would describe him.
You know, there are definitely characters that are sort of like I don't know if it was you, Jeremy, or if it was somebody else that basically said he kind of invalidates Napalm Man as like a character.
That was me.
Is
Why would you play as Napalm
Right.
Man when you can play as Quan Chi with 4 Napalm Mans?
Yeah.
That's actually, I think, a problem for some of the 5-handers now that would have otherwise at least been considered in a world without Bang. If Quan Chi exists, I'm not playing Napalm Man.
Yeah.
I'll play Quan Chi with 4 Napalm Mans
Yeah.
and I'll play it with 4 Section 13 and failed experiments.
mm-hmm.
But I'm not gonna play Napalm Man now. There's no way. There's no point. Like,
Yeah.
I did want to note too that like Quan Chi also has a really good responsibility
Yeah,
attached to it.
that, oh, that's fantastic. Yeah.
it is pesky to say the least.
That's
Is the way I would describe it. I played against the Quan Chi. I played against Martin in the MK side event, and I beat him. But when I was going through the Jackie, I make everything punch real hard routine, he was making my powerful 6 into powerful 3 every time I did it, because I had to enhance with Jackie, enhance with the momentum gain, enhance with the powerful. So instead of giving everything 6 damage like Jackie likes to do, because she just hits like a truck, against him I was hitting like a much smaller truck, and it wasn't nearly as impressive because he was a 720 that was copying Dimitri and gaining 100 life, and copying Deborah and all this.
That's
I don't think he had
awesome.
Deborah's, but yeah, like it was frustrating.
That's fantastic. That's awesome, man.
Yeah, actually, it's sort of funny. Like, I saw the character thing, and I was like, oh, you know, that's cool. And I saw the R, and immediately I thought of, like, Thomas Gordon.
Yep.
Because he loves the old, like,
Yeah,
Gabrick
Gabrick.
1.
Yeah,
And I just saw that, and I was like, oh, this is just Gabrick's R, but doesn't have a control check cost.
Mhm.
So, there you go.
Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty gross.
And, yeah, I guess it's a good thing that he is cycling Navos, because Quan Chi Navoses would be...
Infinite damage for infinite speed, probably.
Yeah.
As
How many
far as I-
enhances do I have? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, whether you pass or not, I'm getting...
Life's
another
gonna
game.
suck. Like, imagine like if you're playing against a guy as you're playing as Quan Chi and you're playing against someone that in order to make their attacks scary, they have to play at least 3 or 4 enhances per attack.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, this Spike sure did lead with Dagger Strike. All right, well there's Stun, that's an enhance. There's the Eon Dagger Strike, that's an enhance. Oh cool, you Spike enhance, that's neat. This Dagger Strike does 1 damage.
Yeah, it's at 1 damage. Yeah.
Yeah,
That was
pretty
my Jackie experience in
Yeah.
a nutshell. It's like I'm used to punching people in half, and I was punching them back.
Oh, that just reminded me though. The one thing I was talking to Scott today at lunch, and it struck me. I was like, you know, if I'm playing Quan Chi on Evil, every time they play an enhance, I can give them damage and guarantee that my jealousy and fakes go off.
Oh, you dirty boy.
We're getting into the infinite cute territory here.
Yeah.
boys.
So in order to beat Quan Chi, I have to play 19 flash attacks against him and hope he just doesn't block.
Yep, there you go. Awesome. So I think we wrapped up MK in a nutshell with our favorites. I take it. We're pushing like an hour, almost. Yeah, about an hour and a half. So I know it's getting late where you guys are at. So is there anything else we need to talk about, Rob? Other than Indy's coming up in On the 19th,
For the love of God, someone play Sniper Joe.
I am 75% going. It depends if the wife. It depends.
75%.
Chris is like, I'm guaranteed in the finals 25% of the
25%.
Yes.
That Scott Steiner math is coming into play real
There
hard.
you go. But yeah, so
like,
that's gonna
Phil Birch is going. I might get into Phil Birch's car and come.
do it. That'd be awesome because
You should bring Nick Birch with you as well.
Yeah, that'd be
I
great.
mean-
I know Trent's coming, so and I know Trent was the the triple
now is
getaway.
Is Trent going if you don't go?
Yes, he is going if I don't go.
Okay.
So
Okay.
he had his favorite, one of his favorite stories is triple getaway firing Tim Keefe in one game.
Oh
I
God.
heard about that.
Yep. That was
boy.
and then he took a game. He was super. Even though he lost the match, he was super excited that he took down a game off of Tim, and then he also took a game off of Wags too in teams, I believe. So he took a game off of Wagner in teams.
Was that a similar thing?
What?
Or with did he do the same thing at WAG with the Gateway Fires?
I don't know. I think it was.
Okay.
I'm not sure, but he does that to him. He does that around here with the triple getaway fire. So I'd start shuffling. I gotta start shuffling his deck a little more. And maybe he he doesn't do that, but
Man, hit you with the getaway fire
gets me,
experience right
dude.
there.
Seriously, when it hits, dude. So
He sure got away.
yes, he did.
I'm pretty sure Tim Keefe was convinced he was not winning Worlds this year after his Bubble Man match where he got bubble-leaded, like double bubble-leaded turn 2, both games. And
Oh,
like,
wow.
Like 0-2 against Bubble
that
Man
card
or whatever.
seals you all right there.
And like that was like
Right.
round 3 or 4, and he came up to me and he goes, "I got hit by so many bubble leads." I was like, "What happened, man?" He's like, "I lost." He's like,
He
"I got
told me about
bubble-leaded."
that because then his participation pack for the round
Oh, was the
He got a
bubble
bubble
lead?
lead.
opened a bubble lead. And he's just like, I can't escape it.
No.
Tim
Yeah.
Keefe forever losing the bubble in there.
That was almost a hot rod JRay moment for him. Like, I thought the tournament was over, but he recovered. He's a
Yeah.
stronger man than
Yeah.
he was.
So that's happening in a couple weeks, and then we have Omaha in June, and then Rockford in July.
Oh, I didn't even realize that Omaha was like. It was sort of surprising to me because I knew that Indy was sort of the end of this month.
Yep.
And I was like, there has to be something between that and Rockford because
Yep.
I was like, Rockford's like July, not June, right? And I just had no idea
Yep.
what was happening.
Yeah,
in June.
Omaha's having it this year at Miles' shop, Legendary Wolf game. So, so that's pretty much it. I think for this episode of the Guile treatment, unless anyone else, any other closing thoughts they want to say? Anybody?
Sorry I cut out there in the last few seconds. I got hit with bubble lead.
Oh,
Found me.
damn.
Thank you for having me on.
Oh, you're welcome.
About
Thanks for
putting my
joining us,
basketball
guys.
equipment
Yeah,
For sure.
I appreciate it.
Where I ruined
Hey, you
everything.
too could have, tied for first place with
Because you showed up.
World's predictions.
Luckily, you guys had 900 people on that one, so I don't even think you guys noticed I wasn't there. You probably were asking questions to me anyways, and then just like, "Oh yeah, good answer, Jeremy," and then move on to Tim.
Oh man, Marco cut out. All right. Oh, he left.
You really did get hit with that bubble lid.
Where'd
Yeah, he's
Jeremy?
out.
Where'd Jeremy go?
I can hear you guys.
Oh, okay. Your camera cut out. So you're just Cody now. You're a little.
I'm a ghost. What
You're a
happened
ghost.
there?
Oh man. All right. So appreciate it, Jeremy. And for this, that will end it for this episode. And we'll talk to you guys all later. Good night, everybody.
Later.
Later.